In our second section, we will begin developing our first project, a space shooter game. In this game, we will learn all about the basic fundamentals, such as UI pages, player movement, enemy collisions, and score tracking. We will also implement character selection, each with a signature attack. In this section, we're going to set up everything we need for our space shooter game. We're going to start off downloading the asset packs being used at these links here. We're then going to go ahead and create all the new folders for the game's art and components. Then we're going to make sure to add a main node that will be the starting scene for our game. Now let's go ahead and jump right in. This here is the first asset pack we're going to use. This is going to have everything in the game for the spaceships, the different asteroids, and the different laser sprites. It's going to be called Space Shooter Redux, and you can locate it at kenny.nl/assets/space-shooter-redux. So once you navigate here, simply scroll on down to the download button, select it, and then you're going to go ahead and download the zip. Now once you have that zip, make sure to extract all from it. The next asset pack we're going to be using is going to be for our UI. It's going to have a bunch of different UI in here for different colors like blue, yellow, red, green, and gray. It's going to be called UI Pack. You can locate this asset pack at kenny.nl/assets/UIPack. And you're going to do the same thing. Once you navigate here, simply scroll on down to the download button, select it, and then you will have that zip. Now again, make sure to extract all from the zip. Once you've downloaded both asset packs and extracted both, we should be set. Alright, once you've downloaded your asset pack and extracted everything from it, we can go ahead and get started in our new Godot project. Now I created a new project and named it Space Shooter Game. Once you're here, you're going to start off in that 3D view, but because this is a 2D game, let's simply select the 2D view right over here. Alright. Now one thing you can notice is that the current set screen right here is built for more of a desktop style game. Now we are going to be creating more of a mobile style game, so we need to adjust the screen size. Now that's pretty easy. All we have to do is simply go to our project settings. Then we just have to look for window, which you can simply find by typing in W. It's going to be under display right over here. So go ahead and select that. Perfect. Now we just can adjust the actual width and height of the screen. So let's start off with the width. A good one for mobile devices is 720 for width. And then for height, 1280. Hit enter, and there we go. Now let's scroll on down a bit. There's one more setting we can do that will help us in the long run. It's going to be under our stretch, and it's going to be mode. Now our current mode for stretch is set to disabled, so it will not adjust the screen depending on how much the screen stretches it out. But we don't want that. We want it to adjust to any screen size. So a good thing you can do is simply select that drop down and go to viewport. So now it'll go ahead and stretch to any screen size. It'll have somewhat of a black background around it, but that's okay. For the most part, it will fit in any screen. So let's go to close now. Let's go ahead, and what we're going to do is create our main scene. So let's go to 2D scene. Let's rename this as main, all lowercase. Hit enter. As you can see, it's currently not saved, so let's save that. Now it's asking where we want to save it. Now we don't currently have a nice folder for this, and it's best to have a folder for each thing we're going to be saving in the game. So before we save this, let's cancel. Let's create those folders. All right. I'm also going to readjust the screen here so we can see that full screen as well. So to create those folders, we're going to right click on our rest folder here at the lower left, create new folder. Let's call it scenes. Hit OK, and there we go. So now what we can do is save again, Control S, save inside that scenes folder. Hit save, and there it is. It's right in there. Perfect. So one other thing I like to do also is I like to set the folders to specific colors. It just makes things a little easier to read and more organized. So I'm going to set this one's color to a purple. Let's also create the other folders as well. Let's right click, create new folder. Let's call this one art. Let's change the color and set it to red. Now that asset pack that you downloaded, you want to go ahead and drag and drop the extract one into here, okay? Make sure to do that. Simply open up the File Explorer and just drag and drop it right into there, all right? And we should be set there. Let's go ahead and create the other folders real quick. Folder. Let's call this one components. This is going to save all the different components we're going to create throughout the game, such as the lasers, asteroids, enemy ships, and even maybe the player. Let's give it a color. I'm going to right click, set color to yellow. All right, one more left. Let's right click, create new folder. Let's call this one scripts. This is going to save, of course, all the different scripts we're going to create for our game. Let's also give it a color, set it to something like green. And there we go. Let's save that real quick. All right, so now all we got to do is make sure that things look good when we hit play on the game. And we can simply do that simply by going to the Start Current Scene right over here. Select that. It's going to load up. And as you can tell, it perfectly fits in the screen. Now, what if the window isn't this big? What if we go ahead and minimize it just a bit? As you can see, it still fits there. What if we stretch it out a bit? It still fits perfect. And of course, if we go up and down as well, it's still going to fit. All right. Now, this is one way you can do the scaling. Of course, there's other ways. But for now, at a beginner level, this I think is the best way to do it. Let's close it up real quick. Let's go ahead, close up the output. Back up a bit, save what you got. And there we go. We're looking good so far. In this section, we're going to create a global script. We're going to start off discussing what a global script is. Then we're going to add one into our current game. From there, we're going to add some global variables within this script. Then, last but not least, we're going to add an important global game function for resetting all the current values. Now let's go ahead and jump right in. This here is an example of how the global script is going to work in our game. Now this box in the center is going to resemble the current main scene we have. Now in that scene, we're going to be adding things such as the UI, the player, and also the enemy nodes. Now, if we want to track certain variables without communicating all over the place within each script, a better way to do it is simply house those variables within the global script, such as maybe the current points, the player health, or also the game state of whether the game is currently on or off. So we can directly communicate with that outside of each script, just like this. Now, one thing to note though, that gets confused a lot with global scripts is that when we reset variables within the current game, such as resetting it when a game over happens, it's only going to reset those variables within the current main scene. So what's going to happen though is it's not going to reset those variables within the global script, so we also have to create a function to specifically do that. Godot makes it very easy though. All right, let's go ahead and get started creating that global script. Now to do that, we simply have to go all the way up to Project, Project Settings, select the Globals tab on the top, and there we go. So now let's go ahead and give this a name. Now usually you don't want too many global scripts. Specifically for this game, we only have one, so I'm going to call it Global. Go ahead, add that in. Let's select the correct location with this button here, and make sure we're saving it in that specific scripts folder. Hit Open. Create. And there we go. There's our global script. Now let's go ahead and open it up with the folder button right here. And now we can see what's in it. All right. So what we're going to do though, starting off, is add all those global variables. First one is going to be called variable game underscore over. And we're simply going to equal that to false starting off. Underneath it, we're going to create another one called game underscore on. And again, we're simply going to equal that to false. Next up, we're going to create variable score and equal our default starting value to 0. Underneath there, we're going to create another variable. We're going to call this chosen underscore ship. And we're always going to start off the default selected chosen ship equal to 1. Once we want to switch them, we'll simply equal this to 2 or 3. Now we're going to add one more variable on the bottom here called mute. And this is simply going to keep track of whether or not the player wants to hear the sound effects. Now I like to add this because those sound effects or background music can get kind of annoying over time. So this is just a nice little thing to add for your player. Alright, as mentioned earlier though, we're also going to create a function to reset these values when we want to restart the game. So let's do function reset underscore values, give it a parentheses set, colon, and then backspace within it. And what we can do now is simply just copy all of our current variables and paste them in. Then we just need to format them correctly. We can get rid of the var, so go ahead, backspace, and give it a tab. And do that for each one to get rid of all those errors. Again, we need to run this whenever we want to restart the game, because if we currently just restart the current scene, it will only reset all the current values within the scripts within the game, not the global ones. So we have to remember to run this whenever we restart the game. Now one more function we're going to add in here. This is just a little helpful to help mute the game if the player wants to. We're going to use a pre-built function called underscore process. Now the process function is just going to continuously run whenever the game is on. This delta value within it helps calculate things with the current frame rate of the game. Now we don't need to worry about that for now. We'll get into that down the road. But to go ahead now and reset and turn it on and off the sound for the game, we need to first tell whether or not mute is equal to false or true. So we're going to say if mute equals true. If that's the case, then we're going to turn off the sound. Now to do that, there's a simple way we can do it within Godot by doing a capital A, audio. And we're going to do audio server. Make sure you spell things correctly. Audio server dot, and we're going to do set underscore bus underscore volume underscore dB. This one right here. So go ahead, add that in there. Within it, set a parentheses. We're going to go ahead again, do audio server dot get underscore bus underscore index, and within there we're simply going to set master, which is going to be connecting to the basically sound of the game, and to set it to not be listenable anymore, just do -80. All right, now that might be a little confusing, but this specific code will simply go ahead and just turn off all sound within your game. Now if you want to do the opposite and turn it back on, what we can do is simply go ahead, do an else, and then just copy that same code we have right here, paste it in underneath, and instead of -80, simply just set that to 0, which will reset it. All right. Again, this is a little complicated code for now as a beginner, but all you really need to know is that it basically will turn on and off the sound. All right, let's save what we got in here, Control S. Let's go back to our 2D view, and there we go, we're looking good. In this section, we're going to go ahead and create the background for our game. We're going to start off and discuss what kind of background we want to create for our game. Then we're going to go ahead and add the correct node to create the visuals for the background. We're then going to go ahead and create a simple script to add the scrolling background ability. Now let's go ahead and jump right in. The best way we can go about creating a background for our game is simply adding a default image and then having a looping effect to make it look like it's moving forward. Now to do that in Godot, what we're going to do is start off with a base image of the background that will fit the entire screen. Then we're going to go ahead and duplicate that image and put it right above the starting one. From there, we're going to go ahead and create an animation and set it to loop by moving the entire two images downward. Once it gets to the bottom, it will go ahead and reset that image, giving it the looping effect. Now we're also going to need a simple script that starts playing the animation on start and of course pauses it when necessary. Alright, let's get started creating that background. So one thing to note, make sure you added both the asset folders inside your art folder, because we are going to start using some of those assets. Now to start this off, let's give it a main node for the background. Let's right click on our main node, add child node, type in node and select node 2D. Hit create. Let's rename this BG for background. Now inside of background, we're going to add a couple things, starting off with that base image that fills the entire screen. Let's go ahead, right click, add child node, and we're going to use another node 2D, and we're simply going to call this space 1. Now, space 1, we need to add the actual sprite in it. To do it, there's a simple way we can right click, add child node, and what we could do is add a sprite 2D. Now this isn't my favorite way to do it, but this is probably the easiest way. We might not stick with this way, but I just want to show you how to do it in the first place. So let's locate the space image. It's going to be inside of our space shooter game. Find backgrounds, and then you can select whichever background. I'm going to use the dark purple background. Drag and drop it into here. Perfect. And as you can see, now we have our image. And of course, we can move it around with our move tool, place it somewhere like over here, and then go ahead and stretch it out. But the problem with doing this is it's going to go ahead and stretch the image. And as you can see, it doesn't look like it should. It's a little bit too stretched downward and maybe a little less to the left. So the stars aren't really matching very well. So there's actually a better way we can go about this. What we could do is remove the current sprite 2D, select it, hit the delete key. And instead of adding a sprite 2D, we could go ahead, right click, add child node, and add a tile map layer. It's going to be this one right here. Go ahead, create that. Then we can go ahead on the inspector towards the right, set the tile set empty to new tile set. You're going to see some new tabs open up here, such as tile set and tile map. We currently do not have a tile set yet, so we need to go ahead and select tile set. Now we can go ahead and drag and drop in our image that we want. So I'm going to take that dark purple.png we had earlier and drag and drop it right here. Now it's going to ask you if it wants to basically tile cut it for you, and we don't want that. Go ahead and select no. Now what we need to do though is make this one image. As you can see, it's kind of cut into a bunch of different boxes, and that is because in the setup, if you scroll down, it's currently set to 16x and 16y. But if you highlight over that image over here in the folders, you can see that it's 256 by 256. So we need to set it to those numbers. So let's go ahead, set that for x, 256, and then 256 for y. Perfect. Now it's going to be one whole image. But if we go ahead and go to tile map now, we select that image. Make sure you are highlighting it. You might have to re-click into it. Or actually go back to tile set. We never actually initiate it as a tile. All you got to do is just select it and then highlight it. Then go back to tile map, select it again. And now if you start placing it though, it's not exactly going to place it in the correct positioning. Now the reason it's doing this is because it's still placing it in that 16 by 16. We can change that though if we go over to the tile set and then change it from tile size over here. So let me remove what we currently have on the screen first. I'm going to use the eraser tool. You can use the box tool to be a little faster, just like that. I'm going to turn off the eraser tool. I'm going to keep the box tool on though, but I am going to now change these to 256 to match up what we currently have in the tile set. So let's go ahead, add that there as well, and it should be positioned a little better now. So now if we place a block here, here, and here, looks like it sets a lot better. I'm going to go ahead now and fill out the entire screen. Perfect. As you can see though, it's a little bit too much to the right. Now what I'm going to do is I'm simply going to take our space 1 and just move it on over to the left a bit, just so it's kind of centered. Just like that. You can zoom in a bit if you want to make sure that it is at the bottom. It should be with the 256. Same thing at the top. You can go ahead, zoom in a bit, and just make sure it's going up to the line, which it is. Perfect. So now we need to go ahead and duplicate this and put the duplication right above it. So let's go ahead, select space 1. I'm going to Control D to duplicate. You can also right click and then scroll down to where duplicate is. But now we want to do is bring this second one right above it. So what we're going to do is I'm going to zoom out just a bit, take that green arrow, hold down the control key, and just move it up to where it matches up. Now we just want to make sure it is perfectly on the line. So what I'm going to do is zoom in a bit, and then still hold down the control key, move it down until we're right on the line, because we got to make sure that it is perfect. And there we go. Let's scroll back out, and we should be looking good there. All right, so now what we need to do is give it the animation to give it that looping effect. Now that is really easy. All we have to do is right-click on our background node, add child node, look for animation player. It's going to look just like this. Add that in there, and there we go. All right, let's go ahead and create that simple animation where we scroll this thing down in a looping effect. I'm going to go to pointer. I'm going to go to animation, new, and I'm simply going to call this loop. And all we're going to do is we are going to go ahead now and select space 2 and 1. We can start with the space 1 to make things simple. And all we're going to do is go to our move tool. Now before we move it down though, we need to save that starting position. And how we can do that is simply go to the transform. And you're going to see these keys now. And these keys are going to mark a new spot in our set animation. So let's go ahead and mark that animation right here. Hit create. And as you can see, that is going to be the new starting animation. Now, of course, we need to go downward. So I'm going to move our current animation set all the way to 1 second right over here. And then I'm simply going to move this one down all the way towards that line there. I'm going to zoom in a bit just to make sure I'm on the exact line. There we go. Looks like that's perfect. Now I'm going to save that as well. Looks good. Now we saved that one. Now we need to do the other one. So let's go ahead back to 0. Let's select our space 2. I'm going to save that starting position. Hit create. Then go ahead, move it all the way down here. Then simply move this down. It should lock into place. Just go ahead, double check it has the right positioning for each one. Yep, looks good there. Then all we have to do is save that with the key. Now, if we go ahead and hit play, you're going to see it's going to move down. But it doesn't have that looping effect yet. To add that looping effect, we can simply select this little arrows over here to add the animation looping. And if we go ahead now and play that animation, it'll go ahead and loop, which is exactly what we want. Now I think this is a little fast. If you want to adjust basically the speed to more than 1 second, we can change that from over here. Let's say we want it to be 2 seconds. So then you can go ahead and just highlight both of these here and move them on over to the 2 second. Make sure you have your line there so you can match it up on there. So go ahead, highlight each one and move it directly on top of it. And there we go. So now if we go ahead, hit play, it'll be a little slower. And again, you can adjust this to whatever one you want, but I think 2 second looks pretty good. All right. Now one more thing we could add real quick before we create that script is give the game some borders. Now these aren't necessarily necessary for the game because our mouse isn't really going to go past, but it does help the game look a little more natural. So let's add those borders real quick. Super easy. Let's right click on background, add child node, create a static body 2D. Now this is going to add the ability to make collisions. So if we have something like a player or maybe certain enemies, they won't be able to pass through the things we put in here. So let's go ahead, right click on that static body 2D. We need to give it a specific shape. And we can do that by adding something called a collision shape 2D. So add that collision shape 2D in there. Then we just need to give it a shape, which you can do on the inspector. Let's give it just some rectangles. We'll start off with one here. It's going to be a little small, but all we want to do is just go ahead and stretch this out to the size of the screen. So I'm going to take that, move it down. Make sure you have the middle dot or it's going to stretch each corner. There we go. Again, let's go ahead, move that down. Make sure you got the middle one. There we go. It's okay if it goes a little farther, that's fine. Then what we can do is select that, Control D, and just move it on over to the other side. And just kind of match it up. Make sure the middle's on that line, just like that. All right. So now we need to go ahead and create the one for the top and bottom, which we can do by simply going ahead, duplicating. But one thing that you'll notice is if you go ahead now and try to change the shape, it's going to change the shape of all of them, which we don't want to do. We want to keep those other two. So if I Control Z, and what we can do to make that not happen is simply go over to that shape we have, rectangle, right click on it, and simply select Make Unique. So now this will make it a new shape. So we go ahead and change this now. As you can see, it won't change the other ones, which is what we want. So let's go ahead and select it, Control D. Let's bring this on down to the lower one here. And we should be set. There we go. And those are going to be our game borders. So our player will not be able to go through these. Now you might be worried about those enemies bumping into these. Our enemies will be set up a little differently so they won't be affected by these borders. Let's go ahead though, save what we got. We can close up the animation by selecting this here. We can also close up some of the art as well. And we're looking good. Now let's go ahead and create that simple script. So what we're going to do is we're going to select the main node of our background. So we can close up the static body and select the main background node. Add a script with this little button here. We can keep the name as BG, but we need to select the correct location, which is going to be that scripts folder. So let's locate that, open it, and create. All right, so this is going to be a super simple script. All we want to do in here is to start the scrolling effect, and then of course stop it when the game is no longer playing. All right, to do that, what we'll do is start off with a function called _ready. Now this will go ahead and initiate anything on start of the game. So it's not going to continuously run after the game has started, just one time at the beginning when you turn on the game. But what we want to do then is simply start that animation. So we can take our animation player, drag and drop it in, do a dot play, and then within it just play the animation you want, which is looping. Now this reset one is kind of like its default one. All right. Every single time you make a new animation or a new animation player, it's going to have one reset in there, which is kind of like the default that is automatically there. Usually you don't want to use the reset one. You always want to use any created one. So let's add that there. Perfect. So now when we start the game, it'll start that animation. And we can test that out simply by saving what we have so far. We can go ahead now and start current scene, and you're going to see that animation playing. And there you go. Let's go ahead and close out of there. Now we just need to add the pausing effect. So let's go ahead, go in here. Let's create another function. Let's do function _ process. Now within here, all we want to do is say if global dot game over equals true. If that is the case, then we're going to go ahead, take our animation player, drag and drop it in there, do a dot play, and go ahead and set the reset. Or if you don't want to do that, what we could do instead is simply do a dot pause, which will pause any current animation playing. All right, so let's save that real quick. Let's go ahead and go to our global script because we know that the game over doesn't equal true currently. So let's change that to true starting off and just test and make sure it pauses the animation. So now back to 2D view, start current scene. Let's double check it actually pauses it, which there you go. It's doing it. Awesome. Let's close out of there. Let's remember to go back to script and let's change that back to what it was to false, just so we don't mess up anything else in the future. Let's go back to 2D view. Let's close the output. Let's go ahead, close that there, zoom in a bit, and save what you got. In this section, we are going to create the UI nodes for our game. We're going to start off and discuss what kind of nodes we are going to create. Then we are going to create each UI node with the correct text and buttons. We're also going to ensure each button has a pressable node attached. Now let's go ahead and jump right in. This here is all the UI we are going to create. it's going to consist of 4 different UI nodes. The first one here on the left is going to consist of the start screen. This, of course, is going to have the title of the game and the play button. The second one is going to be the ship selection page, where you can go ahead and select between the first ship, second, and third. We're also going to have a ship image, and it's going to change depending on which one you select. For the next page, it's going to be the in-game UI. Now, the only UI button that's going to be present in the in-game UI is simply the mute button at the top left corner. The final UI is going to be the game over screen. Once you run out of health and you are in the game over state, the text of game over is going to appear, and we're also going to have a button to send us back to the main menu. Alright, let's get started creating that UI. So first thing we're going to do is create a main node for the UI. So let's right click on our main node, add child node, look for that node 2D, go ahead, select it, and hit create. Let's rename it all lowercase UI. Now, before we start creating those screens, we don't necessarily want them to create them inside of a node 2D, because the scaling will be kind of messed up and it won't scale with our screen size. But there's a very easy way we can do that by adding it to another type of node. So we'll do add node 2D on top of our node UI, and we're going to look for something called a canvas layer. Now this canvas layer is great for creating UIs because it acts as kind of like a forefront, and it will scale to whatever our specific screen size is. So let's go ahead and add that. Now we don't need to stretch it out or anything, it'll automatically work. Now we can go ahead and create those nodes that are going to represent each screen. So let's right click on our canvas layer, add child node, and we're simply going to add a node 2D. Now for this node 2D, this will be our start screen. So start screen. Let's create the next one. Control D, change the name, choose screen. Let's do the next one. Select it, Control D, change the name, in-game screen. Then our last screen, let's select this one, Control D, change the name to game over screen. And there we go. All right, let's start off with the start screen. So for the start screen, we're simply going to need that title, a little sprite image of the ship, and a play button. Let's start off with that text. That's going to be the title. To add some text, we're going to right click on start screen, add child node, and use something called a label. Label helps us add UI text into the game. Now we do need to stretch this one out. I'm simply going to grab it, holding down Control, and make it snap to the other side and move it to somewhere about here. Let's put in some text over here on the inspector. I'm going to do space, shooter, game. Now, as you can see though, it's not exactly positioned correctly and a little too small. So let's go ahead and position it using the horizontal align, change that from left to center, change the vertical alignment from top to center as well. And there we go, now it's nice and centered. But it's still a little small, and I don't exactly like the default font. But we can change that pretty easily by selecting the label settings. Currently it's empty, so we're going to select it, new label settings. Then select it again, and you'll get a drop down where you can edit the font, outline, shadow, and resource. Let's start off with the font itself. Now our current font is set to default, so we need to drag and drop the specific font we want to use. If we go to our asset pack inside of our art folder, the Kenny Space Shooter one, go into that, go to the bonus, you're going to see we have some default fonts here. Now I'm going to take this top one here and drag and drop it into this right here. Now it's still a little small, so what we could do is increase the size, which is right under it. Let's simply change that to something like 75. We can always adjust it if it's too big. This one I think is a little big, but there's also another issue, is it's not exactly fitting in that box we originally had. Now there's a reason why it's doing that, so let's Control Z to go back real quick. It's because we never set our auto wrap mode on. Currently it's set to off. We want to set that to the word. So now though, if we do that same thing, make the size set to something bigger like 75, it'll auto wrap just like that. Now I still think that's a little too big for our game. I want Space Shooter to be on the same line. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and shrink it to something like 55. And there we go. I like that a lot better. Now I think it would be also pretty cool if we gave it a nice little background to it as well, which we can do with the outline. So first we'll give it a nice size. Usually you'd want to do a little less than half. So let's do something like 20. And then I'm going to change the color to a light blue. Now that might be a little too bright. You can always change it up by going like this and just adjusting with the different color wheel settings. I think that looks pretty good overall though. I like it. Let's go ahead, select out of it. And that's going to be our title text. Now we can go ahead and create the little spaceship image. And we can simply do that by selecting the Start Screen node, right click, Add Child Node, use a Sprite 2D. And then what we need to do is add an image to that Sprite 2D because as you can see on the inspector, the texture is set to empty. So again, let's go into the asset pack. I'm going to close bonus. Scroll on down to PNG. Let's locate the ships, which are going to be right here. I think a nice default ship will be the player ship 2_blue. Let's take that, drag and drop it onto texture. And there's our ship. Now we can just simply take it with our move tool and put it somewhere like right underneath it. Let's put it like right about here. Now it's up to you how big you want to make it look. I think this size is going to be the original size in game. But I think in the start screen, it'll look a lot better if we increase this size. So let's go to the transform, and then you can edit things such as the position, rotation, scale, and skew. Let's change the scale to something like 3. Now I think that might be a little too big, so I might decrease it to 2. And there we go. Now there is something else you can do to make it a little more clear, is if you go to texture, change filter from inherit to nearest, it might make it a little bit more clear or a little bit more pixelated. I think I like that a little better though, so I am going to keep it. I might move it up just a bit with the move tool. But there we go, that's our image. So now we just need that play button. So let's go ahead and create the play button. Let's right click on Start Screen, Add Child Node. And what we're going to do is we're going to create a node 2D for this, for the main node of the button. And we're just going to call this button play. Then, of course, we need to add the image for the button, so let's right-click, Add Child Node. Now again, we could use a Sprite 2D, but as we know, when we want to scale it to certain positions, especially if we want to make it something like a nice rectangle, that's going to mess up the sizing. So what we want to do is we want to change that to something that can scale with it. So what we're going to do is we are going to look for something called a 9 patch rect. All right. This is going to help scale it a little better, especially with its pixels. So let's go ahead and add that in. Then, of course, we need to add that texture because we have no texture. So let's go ahead. I'm going to close the PNG here. I'm going to look in the other asset pack we have, the Kenny UI pack. Let's go ahead, go to PNG. Let's locate the one we want to use. I'm simply going to use the blue one here. Let's go ahead, open this up default, scroll on down. I want to find the one with the nice border, which is going to be these ones here. Button rectangle, border. So let's take one of these, drag and drop it in here, and there we go. So now what we can do is we can use the little select tool and stretch it out to the size we want. And as you can see, some of the scaling is a little messed up still. Let's first stretch it into the size we want. Something about like that size should be good. Let's move the entire button down, just kind of in the position that we want. We can always adjust it later if we don't like it. I'm going to move it down just a bit more. Now what we can do to make sure this is scaling correctly is if you go to that 9 patch rectangle and you go to patch margins. Now this patch margins, we can go ahead and set the specific margins because if we want to stretch this to something a lot bigger, such as something like this, as you can see, it's not stretching it correctly. So if we wanted to adjust it, we could simply set it to something like left 5, top 5, right 5, and then bottom 5. And there we go. Now, if we go ahead and stretch it, it'll stay that same pixel size by using the 5 pixels for each individual side. All right, looks good. Now let's go ahead, stretch that back to the size we want. I'm going to do something like this. And then I'm going to go ahead, take the button, and I'm going to make sure we center it nice and neat. One easy way to center it easily is just match it up with the text we have there. If it kind of matches, then you should be set. I'm going to move that back down, put it somewhere like right there. All right, looks good. Now we just need to add the text. So again, we're going to right click on button play, add child node. We're going to add another label. So let's add that there. Let's make sure we add the label to match up with the actual node itself. There we go. Now we can go ahead and add the text. I'm going to say play. Of course, though, we need to add the font and then change the color. So let's first center it up real quick, just like we did before. Let's give it a new label setting. Let's go ahead, add that font in we used before. And again, that's going to be inside of the other asset pack. So let's locate that in the bonus. Take the future text, drag and drop it in. All right, looks good there. Now we just need to change the color and increase the size. I'm going to change the color simply to the color black. And then I'm going to go ahead, increase the size to something like, let's do 35. That might be too big, might not. I think it looks good overall though like that. I like it. Now this font doesn't scale really well, I think personally. I think it's a little bit too much to the left. So if we want to move it a little bit more to the right, we can simply just do it like that by just readjusting it. It won't change anything in the button, so you're okay adjusting it. Now the last thing we need to add to the button is the actual button node. That gives it the ability to be actually clicked. So let's go ahead, right click on button play. Let's go ahead now and add a button node. Now this button node, we need to match it up with the image itself. So let's go ahead, stretch it to the same size as the button. There we go. But as you can tell though, it is darkening it out, and I don't really like that view of it. We can easily change that by going down to the theme in control and simply change that theme type variant to flat button. All right, and that will do that. But there is one issue with this though, and you're going to see this in just a second. Let's save what we have and let's start the current scene. Now, if you like this, you can keep it, but I personally do not like it. If you select this button, it's going to have this like white ring around it. And I don't really think that works for every type of button, so I usually like to take that away. Now, what we could do to take it away is simply go ahead, select that button node again. Let's go ahead to theme overrides. Let's go to styles, and that focus one is set to empty, which is going to make that default white ring. You can go ahead and select that, go to new style, box flat, select it again, and simply change this BG color to all the way of a value down here to the 99900, which will make it invisible and no longer be present. Of course, if you wanted to change the color of it, you could do that too over here, but I think it looks really well if we just turn it off completely. So let's go ahead, save that real quick, start current scene again, select it now, and there's no longer that white ring around it. Perfect. All right, let's close that there, close that there. Last thing you need to do though, whenever you create a button, it's best practice to actually give it a unique name. So we have button, we'll just say play. Now, it only needs to be unique from other buttons. So even though we have a main node of button play, it's perfectly okay to name it the same as the node itself. But if we have other buttons, we don't want to name the button play, such as the choose button we will create, and of course the mute button, and then the restart button. We need to make sure that they are not the same. Let's close that real quick. Save what you got. Looking good so far. Let's continue on to the next UI. Let's go ahead now and select our choose screen one. So what we can do to make sure we aren't overlapping each other, we can make this start screen invisible by selecting this toggle visibility button. Now it still exists, but it's no longer going to be visible, so we can focus on the current one we have. There's a couple things though I want to carry over into this screen, which is specifically the ship and also the button. So what I'm going to do first is take that Sprite 2D, Control D, drag and drop it into the choose screen. But we're going to have multiple ships that we can select. So I'm also going to right click on the choose screen, add child node, add a node 2D, simply call this ships. Then we'll simply take that sprite 2D, drag and drop it into there, change the name, we'll call this ship 1. Because we know this is going to be the ship 1, let's go ahead, Control D, change the name ship 2. Then of course we can change the actual image. I'm going to go ahead, locate the ship 2 image I want to use inside of our asset pack. Let's go ahead, take the one we want. I think the player ship 1 will be good for this one. Let's drag and drop it in there. Perfect. What we could also do is turn off the other one to see how it looks by itself, just like that. I like it. Turn that other one back on. Let's go ahead, Control D. Let's do the third one now. We're going to go ahead, change this to ship 3. Let's choose a third ship we want to use. So scroll on down to locate the other blue one, the player ship 3. Drag and drop it into the texture, and there we go. All right, I like it. Now for now, I'm going to turn off ship 2 and ship 3 because eventually we'll have a script that goes and selects visibility of whichever one we have selected. We're also eventually going to have this really cool mimic of what the lasers are going to look like with each individual ship. But for now, we'll just leave it as is. All right, now we just need the buttons. So let's go ahead, let's add another node, or better yet, so we don't have to restart the entire process of creating a button, let's simply take our button play that we have and duplicate it and just drag and drop it into our choose screen. Now, what we got to do, of course, is rename a couple things, such as the main name of the node. Let's call this button choose. That will be the button we do when we want to choose the specific ship. Let's also make sure to change the name of the button node here. So button choose as well. And then change the text, select it, change that to the word choose. I'm also going to go ahead and just lower this button just a bit because we're going to have other buttons, of course, for selecting the type of ship we want to use. But easily enough, we can go ahead and select the button choose, Control D, and just reuse this same button. So we'll call this button ship 1. Then all we got to do is readjust the size. So let's take that 9 patch rect. Let's go ahead and just adjust it a bit. Let's go ahead, do something like that size, maybe a little bigger, about half the size of the original one. There we go. Then of course we need to readjust the text. So I'm going to take that text and just readjust it. Now it might not fit because we have, of course, bigger letters there. I'm going to go ahead and call this one Ace. That'll be our first ship. Again, readjust it. There we go. Then, of course, change the name. So button, and we'll call this ship 1. Then we need to place the position of the ship 1 button, and I'm simply going to move it up and then to the left. It's up to you how you want to design this, but I think this looks pretty good. All right, next up, let's create the next one. Let's save that button there, select it, Control D, button ship 2. Don't forget to change the actual button node name as well to 2. Of course, change the label as well. Let's call this one tank. Hopefully we can fit it. Looks like we can. Then just simply take that entire button, move it on over. Make sure it's in the center. Let's go ahead, create the final one. Let's take the button ship 2, Control D, change the name simply to button ship 3. Don't forget to change the inner node of the button to 3 as well. And then, of course, change the label. Let's call this one Zap. And then go ahead, take that entire button and simply move it on over to the right. And we can make it about the same. I'm just going to move it over to to about there, and that should be good. All right, and there we go. That should be our choose screen. Now eventually we're going to add, of course, some other things in here to spawn the different types of lasers that you can do to showcase the player what each ship can actually do. But that looks good for now. Let's go ahead, close up each one of these, save what you got, looking good. All right, let's wrap up this UI with the final two screens. These ones are pretty easy. So let's go ahead, start off with the in-game screen. So I'm going to turn off the choose screen. And if you remember, all we're going to have in here is a simple mute sound button on the top left. So let's go ahead. Let's simply take one of our current buttons we have, like button ship 3, Control D on it, simply drag and drop it into our in-game screen. I'm going to close up that one there. Let's change this to button mute. Then we're going to go ahead and I'm going to change the actual label real quick. Let's do something really easy, such as just an X, which will represent, of course, turning it off. Now, we might want to change the actual symbol here, specifically the font, because that doesn't really necessarily look like an X, I think. So let's go ahead into the label settings. Let's go ahead and right-click on it real quick. We want to make sure to make it unique because it might change all the other ones, and I don't want that to happen, so make sure you do make unique. Then we're going to go ahead, go to font. We can remove the current font by the delete key. Oops. Or better yet, we can go over here, select the drop down arrow, clear. There we go. And there's the little X. All right. So then what we want to do is I'm going to go ahead and increase the size of this real quick, something a little bigger. Let's do something like 55. And I'm going to move it up a bit because it's not centered correctly. Then we can shrink the entire button node itself. So I'm going to take that node. We want to make this real nice and small. And then up a little bit more. Then we can, of course, recenter the text. I'm going to go ahead up a bit more. You might have to scale it just a little bit more this way. And then a little bit more this way. Perfect. Select away and you should see it. Now, one thing though I do want to do, this is just a personal preference, is I don't like making it completely visible when it's in game. I want to make it a little bit transparent. So we can select the 9 patch rect. We can go ahead to the visibility, and on modulate, what we can do is select it and simply decrease the A value. And I want to decrease it about this much, okay? Just so it's somewhat invisible, all right? And you can do the same thing with the label. If you want to select label, you can go ahead, go to the visibility again, go to modulate, and just decrease it a bit, just to make it look a little bit faded out so it doesn't block any of the player's view. All right. Now, because we need to tell whether or not we have it muted or don't have it muted, I want to make 2 labels actually. So we have our label on, and then we're also going to have our label off. Okay. So let's go ahead, Control D. Now label on, we will keep it as X, and label off, we can go ahead and change it to an O or a 0. And that'll help tell the player whether or not, of course, mute is on or off. So I'm going to change that simply to an O. Then to see it, go ahead, make the other one visible, and then of course the other one just like that. All right, we'll keep the on one on first. And then what we got to do, of course, is position it correctly. So let's take the button mute, move it to the top left corner. You could put it on the right if you want, that's up to you. I just think it looks a little better like this. And then the last thing we got to do before we forget is, of course, readjust the button ship. So let's take that. Let's go ahead, readjust it there. And then we also, of course, have to change this to button. And then we can go ahead and simply make this button mute. And there we go. That's our mute button. Then we can go ahead now and create the last one. That one's going to be pretty similar to the start screen. So let's close that real quick. Let's go ahead, make our in-game screen invisible. Now for our game over screen, all we need is simply game over text, and then of course the main menu button. So let's go ahead and we're simply going to take the things we have from our start screen, such as the label. Let's take that, drag and drop it into game over screen. I'm simply going to change this to game over. Now, I don't exactly want it to be the same color as the title. We could also make it smaller or bigger, but we got to make it unique. So let's right click on the label settings, make unique, select it, go to font, go to outline. I'm going to change that background color to red, signifying that's kind of like a bad thing. All right, so we'll say game over. You could also add something like an exclamation point. That's up to you. But I think it looks really good. Now we, of course, need the main menu button, or just menu for short, which I might do. I'm going to take that button play, Control D, drag and drop it to the game over screen. And I'm simply going to go ahead, change the name of the button from button play to button menu. Don't forget to change the actual button node name as well to button menu. And then let's go ahead, change the text. You can change it from play to something like menu. And the last thing we could do, this is up to you, I think I might do it, is match the button color to, of course, the text. And we can simply do that by locating the button we want to use inside the Kenny UI pack. Go to PNG, locate the red one now, default, and scroll on down to where you have the button rectangle and simply drag and drop it into the 9-patch rect. And there we go. All right, I think that looks pretty good so far. I like it. All right. Now, one thing we could do to just verify that everything is going to work correctly is go through each one. We know the start screen works because we already tested it out. Let's go ahead and test out the choose screen. So let's save what we got, start current scene. Let's make sure. Looks like the scaling of the buttons was incorrect for the smaller ones, so we can adjust that, but everything else looks good. Let's close that. Let's readjust those real quick. Let's go ahead into each of the button. Simply go ahead and just readjust that to match it up while holding down Control. It'll snap in place. Do that for each one real quick. Let's take each one. And this one here. And there we go. All right. So let's go ahead now and do this one over here. Start current screen. Let's make sure we can select the mute button, which we can. Looks good. And then the final one, of course, is the game over screen. Let's test that one out as well. Looks great. All right. Let's close everything up. Let's close our asset packs up as well. Keep things nice and neat. Let's close up the UI. Save what we got. And we're looking good. All right, in this section, we're going to create our UI script. We're going to start off creating a new script and attaching it to the main UI node. We're then going to add a couple functions for the page's navigation. We're then going to ensure all the UI nodes update correctly. Now let's go ahead and jump right in. All right, before we get started creating the UI script, we need to make sure the default start screen is active. Currently, the game over screen is the one that's active, but we don't want that. We want the start screen to be active. So let's go into that UI node, into canvas layer, simply make the game over screen invisible, and make the start screen visible. Now, once we add that UI script, we will be able to navigate through each page. So let's go ahead, select the main node UI. Let's add a script with this button here. Keep the name as UI, but go into the folder. Now we're going to locate the scripts folder to make sure it's in there. Let's hit open and create. And there we go. The first thing we're going to do in our script is create the play game function. Now this function, all it's going to do is simply go ahead and turn off the start screen and turn on the choose screen. Now there's an easy way we can do this simply by selecting inside of our start screen, locating the button play node, and then of course the actual button we have for it right over here. Then from here, go to the inspector, and select Node. Now we can connect a bunch of different signals that are attached to this button node, such as the pressed one. Let's go ahead and select the pressed one. Now we just have to connect it to the script we want to use. Now by default, it's going to send us to the background one, but we don't want that. We want to go ahead and connect it to the UI one. So we can either scroll on down here, or you can go to source and scroll up, and then simply select the UI node with the script. Let's connect that. And now you're going to see this function in here and also tell it is connected from the right. Now again, all we want to do in here is simply make the start screen invisible, but then turn on the choose screen. And again, there's a very simple way we can do that, simply by taking our start screen node right here and dragging and dropping it in right over here. Then from there, we're going to do a dot visible equals false. Now this dot visible is coming from something on the inspector. We are still selected to start screen, but we go back to inspector over here. And if you scroll on down all the way to this visibility section right here, you're going to see this visible. Now visible is always on by default, but since we are connecting with it from the script, like right here, setting it to false, it will go ahead then, make the visibility off. And of course, if we set this to true, then it will make this visibility on. So now we need to do the same thing with our other screen. So let's close that one up there. Let's take our choose screen. Make sure you add another enter inside the function. Drag and drop it in. Simply go ahead, do a dot visible, and equal this now to true. Let's save that real quick. And there we go. Now we can test this out real quick. Let's go to 2D view. Let's go ahead, start current scene. Go ahead, hit play, and now you can see the next screen is visible. Looks great. Let's close that up. Let's go back to the script view. All right, let's go ahead on to the next function. So now we have the function where we can select each ship. Now that's also a pretty easy function. We simply just have to go into the choose screen, locate the button for each ship, such as button 1, select the button, and do the same thing. Go to node on the right, select pressed, and simply connect it to that UI node. Now in here, we're going to set a couple things. The first thing we're going to do is actually set our global variable for our chosen ship. So capital G global, that will connect to that global script. Do a dot, and we're going to go to the chosen ship. And if you remember, the first ship is going to equal 1. Now again, how we are connecting to this is using that capital G global, which is pretty much just connecting to our global.gd right here, and of course grabbing that value, this one. We can set them, we can change them, and we can also initiate functions as well from the outside by simply doing a global dot and whatever command you want. Now, some other things we're going to need in here is simply making the other ships not visible. So let's go ahead, scroll on to ships, open up the ships node, and we have our ship 1, 2, and 3. So now we can go ahead, add an enter here, drag and drop ship 1, do a dot visible, and simply equal that one to true. Then we can set the other two to false. So let's go ahead, take ship 2, and then ship 3. Let's take that dot visible, paste it in below, and then just change each one of these equaling them to false. There we go. Let's save that change. Now let's go ahead and do the other buttons. So let's go ahead, close up the button ship 1. Let's go ahead, open up the button ship 2, find the button for it, go ahead to pressed, connect it to the UI script, hit connect, and then we can simply just copy this whole thing here, paste it in right over here. But we are going to have to change some things, such as the chosen ship no longer equals 1, we want it to equal 2. We also want to make the second one visible. Let's change this to true. And then of course we'll turn off the first one to false. Looks good. Save those changes. Let's do the final one. Let's go ahead, open up button ship 3, select button ship 3, go to pressed, connect it to the UI, scroll on up, connect. Then let's go ahead, copy all these values, paste them here. Simply change the chosen ship, equal it to 3. And then, of course, we want to make the second one false now, but the third one can be true. There we go. Let's save that real quick, and looking good. All right. Next up, we're going to go ahead and we are going to connect the next button, which is the ready button. So like ready to choose the ship and then jump in. That's going to be the button choose. So let's open up button choose. Let's select button choose. Select pressed. Let's go ahead, connect it to the UI. There we go. All right. So now we're going to go ahead and we're going to scroll down. What we're going to do this time is we're going to set another variable in our global script. So global dot, and we're going to set game on equals true, because now we are basically starting the game. We're also going to go, of course, and turn off the current screen we're on, which is the choose ships. So we're going to go ahead, let me close these here, select choose chips, drag and drop it in there, do a dot visible, and equal that to false. Other thing we want to do though is of course turn on the in-game screen. So let's take that, drag and drop it, do a dot visible, and simply equal that to true. Nice. Let's go ahead, save that. Now there is one more thing we are going to do, because this will kind of solve some problems in the future. Eventually in our choose screen, we are going to have each one of these ships shooting some kind of laser to showcase what they can do. But I noticed, even if we make it invisible, those lasers will still shoot. So the best thing to do is just remove it entirely once we choose the choose button. All right? So we can do that really easily. Let me turn back on the original screen by simply going to script. What we're going to do is we're going to go ahead, simply take that choose screen, drag and drop it into here, and then do something called a dot queue free. Now this will remove it entirely from the set scene. Now you may worry that of course this will make it not be there next time we come back, but that won't be the case, because when we restart the game, we're going to reload everything in. So this is just a simple fix we can do to solve future problems. Now, next button we'll do is of course going to be in our in-game screen. That's going to be the mute button. So let's go ahead, open that up, locate the mute button. Let's go ahead, select the button node, select pressed, connect it to the UI screen, connect it. All right. Now this one's going to be a little different because we want to be able to mute and then also turn off the mute. Well, let me add some enters here so we can see it a little better in the center. So how we're going to do this is simply use an if statement and say if our global dot mute double equals false, then we'll go ahead and simply make our global dot mute equal true. So if it's not muted and we press the button, it will go ahead and mute it. Now if you remember, we also have some images for that as well to showcase if it's muted or not, which is those labels. So let's take the label on, drag and drop it here. We're going to make the label on one equal true, of course, for this instance. So visible equals true. And then the other one will equal false. So let's go ahead, label off, drag and drop. We're going to go ahead again, dot visible. Go ahead, select it, equal false. Then what we want to do is the complete opposite. So let's enter backspace once, do an else, colon, and let's just take each value we have in here and we can switch the booleans. So let's go ahead, add those in there, make our mute now equal false, and then of course make this one false and the other one true this time. And there we go. That's going to be our mute button. All right. So now, of course, we need our next button, which is going to be the restart button. So once we die, we want to be able to basically play again. So let me remove these real quick. Let's go ahead, select out of here, select our game over screen, select the button menu, select pressed, connect it to that UI. Let's locate that. Connect. All right. Now in here, what we're going to do is two simple things. First thing we're going to do is connect our global dot reset values, because if you remember, every time we reload the scene, it won't reset the global values, so we have to run this to do that for us. Now to reload the actual scene is really easy in Godot. All we have to do is do a get underscore tree. That'll kind of get like our main node, which is the main node right here. And then we do a dot reload current scene. And there we go. So once this button is pressed, it'll simply restart the whole game. All right? Awesome. All right, one more thing we are going to do in here is we're going to have one more function. Now this function is important to keep the game updating over time, such as the score, and also showcase the score, which we're going to use that function underscore process, because we know this will continually run over time. Now what do we want to do in this function? Now, like I said, we want to make sure, of course, the game is on. We want to make sure the score updates and everything else. So to do that, let's start off with an if statement. Say if dot, or actually we'll do if global dot game over. Let's say that equals true. If that is the case, then what we're going to do is simply turn off the in-game screen. So let's take that, do a dot visible, just like we've done before. Make that one equal false, but we want to make the game over screen visible. So let's take game over screen, drag and drop it in, do a dot visible, simply equal that to true. And there we go. We're also going to go ahead and we are going to continually update the score. Now, we don't really have a spot for the score. So I say let's go ahead and make one real quick. Super easy. Let's go to 2D view. I think the best way for the score, that's going to be in the in-game screen. We're going to go ahead and we're going to go to, let's say, the start screen. Let's duplicate our start label here, Control D. I'm going to take that, drag and drop it into the in-game screen. Let's close up the start screen. Let's make that one invisible. Turn on the in-game screen. And all I'm going to do is I'm going to go to that label. Let's make that just a 0 for now. And then we can also change the name from label 2 to label score. There we go. Then, of course, we can position it a little better. I might just position this one up a bit to about there. Looks good. Then, back in the script, what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and now update it based on the current score we have, which is super easy. All we got to do is take that label score we just made. Now this time we'll do a dot value, or better yet, we'll do a dot text, because we know we can connect to the text on the inspector of the label. So we're going to do dot text, and we're going to say equals, and we'll just do str, which stringifies a value, specifically an int, and we're going to stringify that global dot score. All right. If we didn't have the str in the parentheses, we would get an error, so make sure you have that there, because the text is a type of string, and we can only equal it to another type of string. Now this isn't the only score label we need to update. We also need to update the one inside of the game over screen. So let's go ahead inside of here. Let's take the label. Make sure we're taking the label of the screen itself here. We want to add the score here, which is kind of like the final score of the game. We can simply do that by going ahead and moving this over. Or better yet, if you don't want to make this the score, which is game over, I think a better way would be adding another text right below it. So let's go to 2D view. Let's turn off this one and this one on. Like I said, I think it would be cool if we have the score below it. So let's change the name of this one real quick from label to label game over. Then we'll simply go ahead, duplicate this, and we'll just say label score. Then, like I said, we'll just move it right below. Let's go like right there. Let's do capital S score, colon, and then like a 0 as a placeholder. Now I think this might look a little better smaller, so I might adjust that. I'm going to right click on the label settings, make unique, select it again. Let's go to the font, shrink it a bit. Let me just do something like 35. And then the outline, make it a little less as well. Let's do 15. Maybe even less than that, 13. Looks good. Now we can go ahead, back into the script. Let's go ahead, take that label score in the game over screen, drag and drop it in there. Again, do a .text equal. Now instead of just labeling it the actual score, I think it would look better with that score in the colon, so we'll do double quotes, score, colon, space, make sure to add the space there, and then we can go ahead and do a plus str for the string, global dot score. And there we go. All right, let's clean this up a bit, remove what we have down here. Let's save what we got. Back to 2D view. Let's go ahead and I'm going to close this here, turn that off. Let's select the start screen, save what we got again, start current scene. We have the starting spot here. We have the different spaceships we can choose from. And then we have the choose here, which starts that. And then of course we have the button here. Now one thing I noticed is, oh, no, it does work. I want to make sure that we can change in between the X and the O to know whether or not we have the mute active, which we do. Looks great. Let's close that. Close this up here. Close the UI. And there we go. We're looking good. Save what you got. In this section, we're going to create the laser nodes. We're going to start off and discuss the lasers that will be created. We're then going to add the sprites for each laser type. Then we're going to ensure you give the lasers a collision shape and a lifetime timer. Now let's go ahead and jump right in. These images are going to represent each type of laser we are going to create. Starting off on the left side here is going to be our basic laser type. This is going to be the fastest firing rate laser that's going to simply project a laser in an upward motion. The second laser type is going to have a much slower fire rate, but be able to spread 3 different lasers going 3 different directions. The final laser we're going to create is going to be our zap attack. This is going to have the slowest firing rate, but be able to project a long laser that will fade slowly out. This laser will also be able to follow along with the player, slashing any enemy in its path. Alright, let's go ahead and get started creating our lasers. So let's go ahead, we're going to create a new scene for our laser. So let's go to Scene, New Scene, and we're going to use a specific node called a Character Body 2D. Now the reason we're using a Character Body 2D is it allows us to use some pre-built-in physics. This is going to help tremendously when we want to make the bullet move. So, the Character Body 2D currently has no sprite on it. So we want to make sure to add a sprite. Before we do that though, let's also give it a name. Let's call this Laser 1. Let's save that real quick. Let's make sure to save Laser 1 inside our Components folder. Alright, now let's add that sprite in here. Let's right click, Add Child Node. Let's simply use a Sprite 2D. Then we're going to go ahead, grab the sprite we want to use inside our Art folder, Space Shooter. Let's go ahead, locate the lasers. And I just want to use the simple cylinder laser, so let's try and find that. I think it should be one of these. I'm going to use, let's see what this one looks like. Drag and drop it in. This looks pretty good. You can zoom in a bit to view it better. Now if you want to make it more clear, you can go ahead to Texture, Filter Inherit to Nearest. And there we go. Alright, next thing we need is that collision shape. Now the reason we need a collision shape is because we want to make it basically be able to interact with other collision shapes. Now, the type of collision shape we're going to use is going to be inside something called an area 2D. So let's right click on our laser 1, add child node. Let's use that area 2D. All right, before we add the shape for this area 2D, we need to add something to it, specifically a group. Now we're adding a group so other area 2Ds that bump into this one know which area 2D is hitting it. So let's go to node, and then you have groups right next to signal. Select groups. We're going to add a new group. We're going to call this laser. So when our enemies get hit by this thing, the enemies will start to lose health. So next up, we need to give it the shape. So let's right click on area 2D, add child node. We're going to add a collision shape 2D. Then we need to go ahead and set the shape. So go ahead, inspector. Shape is currently set to empty. Let's change that to new capsule shape. And then we just have to adjust it to fit the laser. Just like that. And there we go. All right. So we're going to add a couple more things inside this laser 1. First thing is going to be the R point and L point. Now, we're calling it R point for right point and left point because, if you remember, we are going to have the right shootout and the left shootout with that second laser type. And it's kind of best to keep everything in one, and then we can adjust which action it's doing based on the script and where it's coming from. So let's go ahead and add those points real quick. Add child node, and these are simply going to be a node 2D. And again, we're going to name it R point. And the R point, let's just simply move it to the right. Let's go right about here. We can see the exact numbers with the transform. The other thing we need to do is we need to rotate it a bit because within the script, we are just going to shoot it forward. Now, forward for this one here is just up. But if we rotate this a bit, let's say we rotate it about, let's do 45 degrees. Then it will go ahead and go towards the right. Now, I think 45 might be a little bit too much towards the right. We still want it to go upward a bit. So let's decrease that to 30. There we go. And again, we can always adjust this down the road. But now we need the L point. So I'm going to take our R point, Control D, rename it L point. And then we're going to go to transform. Now we know we're on X31. So let's make this negative 31. Make sure it's 31. There we go. And then we need to rotate it the opposite direction, which will be negative 30. And there we go. All right, looks good there. Now the last thing we need on our node is simply the timer. Now this timer is going to be the lifetime timer. So let's go ahead, right click, add child node. Let's go ahead, add timer. Let's select the timer. And we can set a couple things. We can set the wait time, the one shot, auto start, and some other things. But what we really just want to worry about is the auto start. That'll mean it just starts automatically when it's presented in the game. And then the lifetime, I'm simply going to set that to 3 seconds. Let's save that real quick. And we're looking good with laser 1. All right, before we duplicate this laser for laser 2 and 3, there's one more thing we're going to add, and that's going to be the script. Now we're not going to make the script this time, but I want to add it just so we don't have to add it later. So let's go ahead, add the script to the main node. I'm simply just going to call this laser because we're going to reuse this script for both the laser 1, laser 2, and of course that laser 3. Let's make sure we're saving it in the correct spot, which is going to be that scripts folder. Open that up, hit create. All right, let's go back to 2D view. For now, we won't add anything in there. I just want it to be there as a placeholder. So we have our laser 1. Let's go ahead now and create our laser 2. So what we can do simply is go and find the components and select our laser 1 scene. And all we have to do is right click, duplicate. It'll ask us for a name. I'm simply going to change this to laser 2. Then we can open it up by double clicking it. Now one thing to note is it doesn't change that main node name. So we are going to go ahead and change this. Now laser 2 is not necessarily going to have anything different in the node itself. Eventually, we'll set some things differently for the script, but for now we can leave everything as is. So let's go ahead and create laser 3 now. So I'm going to take laser 2, right click it, duplicate it, change the name to laser 3. Hit OK, then open that one up. Again, change the main node name to laser 3. Save that change. There we go. Now, this laser is going to be a little different because if you recall, this is going to be that zap laser that is going to be almost as long as the screen. So to do that, there's a couple different ways that we can. I think the best way to do it would be to simply move it forward up and just kind of like stretch it. So I think what we could do here is we could go ahead and change a setting. So what we're going to do is we're going to select the sprite 2D. We're going to go ahead, we're going to go to the region, and we're going to enable this. And then we can go ahead and set certain things. So we can set the X to something like, let's do 0.5. And we're going to set the Y to something like, let's do 6.2. And then the width and the height, I'm going to set simply to, let's do 8. And then also over here. Now this one is going to be set to what we want it. For now, let's do like 22. All right. So this is going to be pretty much the shape of it. Now it is cropped to the way we want it. What I'm going to do though is bring this one down just a bit. And we're going to go, let's say about here, because we know this is going to spawn in front of the spaceship. And we want to make the laser look like it's connecting to it. So what we're going to do is add one there. Then we're going to duplicate the sprite 2D, Control D. We're going to drag and drop this into there. And we're going to go to the transform, or go back to the region. And we can adjust the height. So if we go ahead and increase the height, it will stretch it out. And that's what we want to do. Let's stretch this to something a lot bigger. Let's do like 60. Now, one thing to make sure, though, is that we're not stretching it to the point where we're going to see this area visible. We really only want to see is that blue and white mark, okay? Because if I bring this up, you're going to see that that part is still there. Now, that's not necessarily what we want. We want to make sure that we only have this section here. So let's go ahead, Control Z that. And instead, let's see if we can just stretch it with our move tool here, which looks like we can, and it won't mess up the pixels, which works great. But let's zoom back out. What I'm going to do is hold down Control and kind of go up as much as I can. And just stretch it to what I would think is going to be as long as the screen. We need to make it match, though, with the screen's length. So go ahead, make sure you're taking that middle piece. And just stretch it as high as you can get it. And I think that should be good. It's okay if it goes over, because we just want to make it visible, look like it's going beyond, all right? That looks good. But now, of course, we need to adjust the actual collision shape to match the current laser. Now, the bottom part here is fine, but we do want to make sure this part goes up at least to the point of how tall the screen is. So we can select the collision shape. Let's go ahead and just adjust this just how we did before. So I'm going to go ahead and just select it and move it down as far as we can. And let's see. That might be enough. Let's double check it. If it isn't, no worries. And then I'm going to go ahead and move tool, just move this upward and just match it how it was before, just right about here, I think. Yep, we can always adjust this later, no worries. Let's go ahead and go about there. We also could bring this up a bit too. I think this is a little low. So let's go ahead, select the main one here. Whichever one we had, let's go ahead. Yep, move that up a bit to about, let's say, like right there. And again, we can always adjust this later, but I think this will be okay. All right, looks good. Now, one thing to double check is make sure we didn't mess up any of the other lasers by doing this. So if we go back to laser 2, make sure that one is still the same, which it is, perfect. and this one as well. But overall, I think they look great. All right, let's go ahead, close these up, save what we got, and we're looking good. In this section, we're going to create the laser script. We're going to start off creating a new script for the lasers. We're then going to add some functions to make the lasers move and destroy once hit or time runs out. We're also going to ensure the laser type can be changed from the node. Now let's go ahead and jump right in. All right, let's go ahead and get started creating that laser script. So the first thing we're going to do is select our laser 1. Then we're going to go ahead into its script, the one right here. Let's open that up. All right. So now in this script, we're going to want to do a couple things. We're going to have to add a couple variables, and then we're also going to add some functions to give our laser some movement. Now there is going to be some different movement for each type of laser, such as our laser 1, our laser 2, and also our laser 3. But let's start off with those first couple variables. Let's go ahead, let's do some at exports. First one is going to be a variable called speed. Let's simply equal that to a starting variable of 900.0. Then we're going to go ahead, create another at export variable, and this one's going to be our laser underscore type. And we're always going to set this default to 1. Then we're going to go ahead, create another at export variable, and we're going to call this just laser. Now, why are we adding this laser variable here? This is because we are going to be spawning 2 more variables for our laser 2 to give it that nice triple projectile. And we're going to go ahead and make this a type of packed scene, just like that. All right. Then we're going to go ahead, have some more variables below, such as a variable called y underscore direction. And we're going to simply equal that to -1. We're also going to have a variable for our x direction. We're going to set the default value for that to simply 0. Next up, we're going to go ahead, create a simple variable, call this shot, and always equal to false. This is going to help determine that we're only shooting one of the lasers out for that specific laser 2. All right, that's going to be all our variables. Save what you got so far. All right, let's continue on to our first function. So the first function we're going to be creating is going to be our process function. Let's go ahead, do function process. Now inside our process function is going to be updating everything that's happening during the gameplay. So first thing we're going to check, of course, is make sure that the game is on. So let's do an if capital G global dot game on, or better yet, we could even say if game over equals true. Then we're simply going to do a return. Now we're adding this return here specifically because we don't want to make anything else happen below it. All right, so if this equals game over equals true, then we're just going to return and not play anything below it. But if that's not the case, then we're going to go ahead. We're going to do a couple ifs. Say if our laser type equals 1, which is our first laser that we have, we're going to simply set our set velocity equal to capital V vector 2, parentheses set x direction, comma, y direction, and then we're going to times that whole thing by our set speed. We're also going to go ahead and initiate that by using the pre-built move and slide function in Godot. Now what that's going to do is actually add that velocity to our current movement. All right, let's do the other ones for the next types. So let's go ahead, do an enter there. Let's go ahead, do another if. Let's say if our laser type double equals 2. If that's the case, then we're going to go ahead, simply set the velocity with the same way we did before. So let's take that same line we have there, copy it, paste it in. Then we're going to go ahead, simply do the move and slide. But we're also going to add one more thing here. And this is because for our laser type 2, we're going to be spawning in 2 extra lasers going in horizontal directions. So let's go ahead and say if shot equals false, because we only want it to happen one time. Then we're going to run a new function that we're going to create next called spawn underscore 2 underscore extra underscore lasers. And just close it with a parenthesis. Now it's going to be an error right now because it does not exist, but we'll add that in just a bit. Let's go ahead, backspace a bit. Now let's do the next type. So if laser type double equals 3. So this is for our final laser type. And this one's going to be pretty similar to the other one, but this time, because we want this type of laser to follow with the player, we're not actually going to add any velocity. So all we're going to do is simply do a pass, which is going to skip the actual initiation. Let's go ahead now and create this spawn 2 extra laser though. So let's copy that same name there. Let's do an enter, backspace double. Let's do a function, paste the name, give it a colon, and let's add what we need in here. Now there's going to be a couple of different things we're going to have to set to spawn those 2 extra lasers that are going to shoot off kind of next to each other going in a horizontal direction from the original. First thing we need to do is create those new lasers in the world, and we can do that simply by creating a new variable for it. So let's go ahead, let's do variable, and we're going to go ahead, call this new underscore laser, and we're going to do underscore r for the right side one. And we're going to equal that to our current laser dot instantiate. Now we need to do this one for also the left side as well. So let's copy the whole thing and just simply paste it below. And instead of new laser R, we're going to do new laser L for the left one. Now we're actually going to need one more laser specifically for the center one. Now I know we're already going to have this one for it, but if we add them inside of this laser, and if we ever hit something with that middle laser, it'll take away those 2 left and right ones as well. So we need to create another one again for the middle one. So let's just take that whole thing, copy it, paste it in, and let's simply go ahead and just do new laser M for the middle one. Perfect. All right, now we need to add where we want these new lasers to be. And I think the best way we could do this is simply just do an add child for each of them, which will add them specifically inside the current spot that the script is, which is going to be this node here. So we're just going to be adding 2 or 3 new nodes inside of the current new laser we have. So let's go ahead, inside of here, let's paste what we need, new laser R, and then we're just going to copy this, paste it twice below for each other one. Now we're going to need new laser L, and then new laser M. Next up, we need to go ahead and make the original one invisible and not active, and we can simply do that by grabbing the sprite 2D that we have, drag and drop it in, do a dot visible, and simply set that now to false. Now we also are still going to have our area 2D here, so we need to deactivate its set collision shape. So we can go ahead, just drag and drop that collision shape 2D, and then we can do a dot disabled and simply equal that to true. And what that's going to do is pretty much just turn off that collision shape. You can see that value in it if you select it and go to the inspector. It's right here. By default, it's not going to be on, but because we want it to not be active, we're going to make that equal to true, turning it into this. Let's make sure we have it off though. Now we're also going to need to set some things for the direction of the new lasers. Now we know the middle one is just going to go upward, but the right and left one are going to kind of move a little bit more to the left and right. Now to do that, what we could do is set the new speed for each one and of course the new direction. Let's start with the R one first. So let's go ahead, new laser R. Let's go ahead, do a dot speed. And we're simply going to equal that to 600.0. We're also going to go ahead, we're going to do new laser L, or new laser R dot, and we're going to do X direction. Now it's not popping up because it doesn't exactly know that the new laser R is going to have these variables, but we know because we're adding them in the same one here. So make sure you're spelling everything the same or you're going to get an error. So we're going to set this X underscore direction equal to, and let's simply set it to 1. All right. Now that is just going to make it basically go to the right. If we set it to -1, it'll make it go to the left. And if we set it to 0, it just won't go either side. Let's go ahead though and give it a new y value. So let's go ahead, new laser R dot y direction. And then let's go ahead, equal this to 0. Now, we don't want it to go, of course, up or down. We kind of just want it to follow the original laser 1. That's why we're giving it a y direction of 0. All right, next up, we need to give it the global position. So let's go ahead, new laser R dot global underscore position. And we're simply going to set this one equal to our point R that we have. So let's take that, drag and drop it in, do a dot global position, just like that. All right, now we just need the rotation. If you remember, we set these rotations for the R point and L point to be about 30 and negative 30. Now we need to make sure that these new lasers are matching up with that, so they're kind of tilted to whatever direction we want. So let's go ahead, new laser R dot global underscore rotation, and we're simply going to equal that. Again, drag and drop the R point dot global rotation, and there we go. So now we need to do pretty much the same thing to the L, so we can just copy that whole block of code, paste it right underneath, and then just change the new laser R's all to new laser L. Let's do that real quick. I'm just going to copy it like this and Control V for each one. The only thing we're really going to need to change here is specifically this here, the X direction, because we don't want it to move to the right, we want it to move to the left. We're going to make that a -1. We're also going to have to change the R points to L points. So let's go ahead, just change those simply by changing out the L, the R to an L, just like that. Nice. All right. Next up, we need to do the middle one. Now the middle one is just going to follow the parent node, which already has movement. So we can go ahead and just set it with the new laser M. And what we're going to do, dot speed, we're going to equal that to 0, because again, this is just going to follow the original one, which already has speed. We're also going to go ahead, we're going to set new laser M, dot, again, X direction. Make sure to have that underscore. I'm just going to copy it from above. So X direction, we're simply going to go ahead and we're going to make this equal. Let's just equal it specifically to 1. And then again, we're going to go ahead, take that whole line, paste it below. And now for the Y direction, we're going to equal it to 0. And the last thing, of course, is the global position. So let's go ahead, new laser M, dot global position. Simply equal that to our current global position, just like that. All right, and we might adjust these values later, but for now, this should be good. Last thing we need to do at the end of this function before we close it out is simply set that shot value and equal it to true now. So it's only going to happen one time. And then, of course, the last function we can add here is simply the cue free once the timer goes up. So let's select our timer node. Let's go to the node and then the signals of timeout. Make sure you're connecting it to the correct script. And then simply do what we've done before, just a cue free to get rid of the current node once the timer's up. But looking good. Let's save what we got. Remember, you can always check the source code. Let's go back to 2D view. Now we just need to set everything for each main node. So you can select the laser one right here. Go to the inspector. Now it's currently going to need that laser, so let's locate that in our components folder. I'm going to use laser 1 for this, so drag and drop it in. Make sure that laser 1 has the type 1, so let's save that. Let's go ahead, select laser 2 now. Now this is laser type 2, so go ahead and make sure you change that on the main node. Drag and drop laser 1 into this here. Don't forget to connect the timer as well, because remember we did it on this one, but that doesn't mean it's going to go ahead and do the same thing here. But all you need to do is select that timer node, go to node, select timeout, and then just connect it. Let's save that. Go back to 2D view. Let's go ahead, do the final one. laser 3. So let's go ahead and make sure this is setting to laser type 3. And then just simply drag and drop that laser 1. And then go ahead, connect the timer. And go back, save what you got, and looking good. Let's close some things up. Let's go ahead, back to the main screen. And there we are. In this section, we're going to create the laser UI. We're going to start off and add a timer and a spawn point node for each ship type. We're then going to create a simple script to showcase the lasers. We're then going to ensure the lasers are spawning correctly and also moving the way we want. Now let's go ahead and jump right in. Alright, let's get started creating the laser UI. So we're going to go ahead. We're going to be adding this in the choose screen. So let's open up our UI, open up our canvas layer, turn off our start screen, and turn on our choose screen. Alright, so we're going to add a couple things in here specifically for each ship. So let's open up the ship's node. Let's select the ship 1, right click, add child node. Let's first start off adding a node 2D. And we're going to call this just point. This is going to be where the laser spawns in. Now let's use the move tool and just simply move it right above, about there. Alright, now let's go ahead also, right click, add child node. Let's add a timer. And we're going to go ahead to inspector. We're going to set auto start on just like that. Alright, now we're going to go ahead. We can create a simple script for this. Let's select it, add a script on the ship 1. Let's just call this ship UI. Make sure we're saving it in the scripts folder we have. Open, create. Alright, now this is going to be a super simple script. All we're going to do is simply have a variable that's going to be an @export. And this is going to be the type of laser we want to use, which is again going to be a packed scene. Then we're going to have one simple function in here. That's going to be from our timer. So let's select the timer. Let's go to node, select timeout. Let's make sure we're connecting it to the ship 1 and hit connect. And all we're going to do in here is simply create a new variable. Call this new underscore laser. Simply equal that to our set laser dot instantiate. Then we need to tell it where we want it. I'm simply going to do an add child, and then of course set the new laser. Then all we got to do is set the position. So again, new laser dot global position, and we're simply going to equal that to our point global position. So take your point, drag and drop it in, do dot, and then global position, and that's it. Perfect. Let's go back to 2D view. Now we just need to add this for each other ship. So I'm going to go ahead, take that, Control D, drag and drop it into ship 2. And then I'm going to go ahead, change the name. Let's go ahead, right click, add child node, add a timer. Make sure the auto start is on. Then we're going to go ahead, attach that script. You can locate it in your scripts folder. The ship UI, drag and drop it on. While we're here, we can also drag and drop it onto the ship 3. Then all we're going to need is another point. So I'm going to take that point, Control D, drag and drop it, remove the 2, then add the timer. Go ahead, connect it. Make sure you're connecting it to the correct one. We also have to do that same thing for the ship 2. And then of course, just make sure you have auto start for each one, which we do for that one, and now we do for this one. Let's save that. All right. Now of course, we just need to drag and drop the correct laser types into each ship. So for ship 1, we need to drag and drop the laser 1. So let's find that in components, drag and drop that into there. Ship 2, drag and drop laser 2. And then ship 3, drag and drop laser 3. Let's go ahead, save those changes real quick. let's go ahead now and test this out. So what we can do is we can start from scratch. We can simply go ahead, close up, choose screen, turn that off, turn this one on here. Go ahead, start current scene, let that load. I'm gonna full screen this. So let's go ahead, let's locate the screen, hit play. There's our first laser, I like it. Shooting a little slow, we can adjust that. Let's try the tank. There we go, it's nice shooting those triple out. And then let's see zap. We could, of course, move it a little closer, but I think it looks pretty cool. Let's go ahead and close out of there. Let's go back into our choose. Let's change up the timer. So for our ship 1, this one is going to shoot really fast. So let's go ahead, make this like a 0.6. And then for our ship 2, I'm going to make this a little longer. So let's go ahead to its timer. Change this to a 1.2. And then for this one here, this one's going to be the longest one. Let's do 1.5. Save that. Close that up there. And then we need to readjust this a little bit for the point. So I'm going to turn this one on here. Make sure we're viewing it from here though. This was for the third one. It was a little bit too close, so I'm going to go down a bit and maybe to the left a bit. Save that. Let's turn off the ship. Let's turn off the screen. Let's go ahead, start current scene. There we go, looks a little nicer. Nice. And there we go, we could adjust it a little bit more to the right. Also, looks like the laser's lasting a little too long. We can adjust that as well. Let's go back in there for number 3. Don't forget to turn it on. Move a little bit more to the right. There we go. Save that. Turn it back off. Then as for the actual wait time of the laser, just so it disappears, let's go into laser 3. Let's go ahead, make the wait time for this one. We want it to be less than the spawn time, so let's do something like 0.9. Save that. Let's go ahead. Let's go to main. Save what we got here again. Close out of there. Start current scene. Play. Nice. There we go. And then zap. Perfect. Looks great. Let's close that up. Let's close this up here. Zoom out a bit. Save what we got. And we're looking good. Alright, in this section, we're going to go ahead and create the player node. We're going to start off and discuss the plan for the player, and then create a new node for them. We're then going to go ahead and add each sprite needed for the player. We're then going to ensure they have all the correct collision shapes, timers, animations, and sound effects. Now let's go ahead and jump right in. This here is going to represent the player visual and their functionality. Starting off here on the left, this is going to represent the movement of the player and also the direction they attack. Now when you hold down the mouse, we're going to have our player move towards that mouse. So whichever direction you are on the screen, the player will soon follow. When we're holding down the mouse as well, the player will be attacking at a forward motion. As for when the player is hit by an enemy, what we're going to do is simply have an animation play that flashes the player's sprite white and red. Now this animation will not play though when we hit an asteroid, which will result in an instant game over. When it's a game over, what we're going to want to do is simply play a simple explosion animation. Now this animation will only last a couple seconds, but once over, it'll go ahead and play the game over screen right in the middle. Alright, let's go ahead and get started creating some of the nodes for our player. So what we're going to do here is create a new scene for this. So let's go up to our top left, scene, new scene. Let's do an other node, and we're simply going to use a character body 2D. We can rename this as player. Go ahead, save this now, and we're going to save this in our components folder. All right, now we just need to add a couple things, starting off with the actual node itself. That's going to be visible, which is going to be our ships. So let's start off with the node 2D. Rename this as ships. Then inside of ships, we're going to right click, add child node, simply add a sprite 2D. We're going to call this ship 1. Now for ship 1, let's go ahead, drag and drop the image we want to use. Let's go ahead, locate the ship in PNG. Now for ship 1, I'm simply going to use player ship 2, drag and drop it. We're also going to change the size of this because, as you can see, it's a little big for this screen. So I'm going to select it, go to the transform, and adjust the scale from 1 to 0.9. Now, because they're linked, it's going to automatically change the Y value for you. If you ever want to unlink that, you can click there, but I'm going to keep it as is. Now let's go ahead and create the other ones. Let's select this one here, Control D. Let's go ahead, find the one we want to use, which is going to be the player ship 1. Let's drag and drop that in. Then let's go ahead, Control D. Make sure you select it. Let's go ahead, select the one we want to use for the zap ship, which is going to be the player ship 3. Looks good. Now for now, I'm going to turn off the ship 3 and the ship 2. And what we're going to do is we're going to move on to the next one, which is going to be the boom script. So let's go ahead, right click, boom, which is going to be a node 2D. Then we need to give it a sprite. Before then, we could just call this boom. Right click, sprite 2D. Now for this, we just want to use the simple explosion image. So if we go ahead and look for the effects, you're going to see some nice little explosions. I'm going to use this one here, the star 3, drag and drop it in. Then we're going to make it just as big as the ship. So let's go to that transform, increase the scale to, let's see what 3 looks like. You could even do 4 if you want to. I'm also going to go ahead and change the color. So you can go to visibility, select modulate, and we're just going to make this a nice orange. Looks good. Now if you want to make it more clear, you can go ahead, adjust the texture from inherit to nearest. And you can also do that same thing for the ships, but I'm going to keep them as is. All right, for now, I'm going to go ahead and we're going to make the boom invisible. Or better yet, we can just make the sprite 2D invisible. All right. Next node, we're going to go ahead. We're going to add our actual collision shape. So this is kind of going to be like the body for our player because we need to give it a body so it can't go through the outer walls of the map. So let's right click, add child node. We're going to search for that collision shape 2D. Let's give it a nice circle. Let's go ahead and just simply use our pointer tool and stretch it out to surround the player. There we go. So this is the actual body of the player. This will be the thing that can't go through those static body 2Ds that we added in the main, as you can see right here. Let's go back to the player. All right, next up, we have our collision shape. Let's add an area 2D. This is going to be kind of like its hitbox. So let's go ahead, right click, add child node, area 2D. Then we're going to go ahead again. Let's take our collision shape 2D, Control D, and drag and drop it into area 2D. Now before we adjust this, we have to make sure it's unique because if we change it now, it's going to affect the other one. So let's right click on the shape circle. Make sure to select Make Unique. I also like to make this one a different color, just so we can tell which one is the body and which one is the area 2D. Now what we want to do is simply just stretch this out a little bit further. Or of course, if you wanted to, you could go ahead and shrink the collision shape body, but keep this one as is. But make sure it's just poking out just a bit from the body. All right. Next up, we're going to have the actual firing point. That's going to be where the laser is going to spawn in. So let's close that there. Let's go ahead, right click, add child node, and we're simply going to go ahead and add a node 2D. We're going to call this point. And again, this is the laser shooting point. Let's go ahead and just move this where we want that to be. We might adjust it later, but for now I'm just going to put it right in front of the spaceship. Now one more thing we could add that we forgot to do is we need to be able to tell the enemy ships and asteroids what this is. And we can do that very easily by adding a group to that Area 2D hitbox. So make sure you select it, go to Node, Groups, and we're simply just going to add one called Player, all lowercase. And there we go. So now, in other scripts in the future, we can tell what exactly is going to hit them by using this player tag group. All right. It's good there. Now we can go ahead and add a couple timers. Let's right click, add child node. Let's add our first timer. This one's going to be our timer to shoot. So to shoot. And let's double check the settings we need. I'm just going to go ahead, select it, go to inspector, keep the wait time at 1, but we're going to go ahead and do auto start. All right, we're also going to do one shot. Let's go ahead, save those changes. Let's go ahead and create the next one. Let's right click, add child node, another timer. Now this one's going to be our power up timer. Because we don't want to have infinite power ups, we want it to go away after a while. We need to have a countdown timer for that. So let's call this power up. Now this one is not going to be auto start, but we are going to make this a one shot. And for testing purposes, I think I'm going to go ahead and just make this 3 seconds long. Or better yet, let's even do 5 seconds. Eventually we'll attach signals to these, but for now we'll leave it as is. All right, now we just need some animation players. Let's go ahead, right click, add child node. And we're going to go ahead, add our first animation player. Now this one here, this one's going to be our animation player for the boom effect. And we'll add that in just a bit. We're also going to go ahead, create another one. This one's going to be our power up effect, which we're simply going to go ahead and just make our player flash when powering up. Then we're also going to have one more for the player hurting. So we'll go ahead, call this one animation player hurt. Now there's a reason why we're adding multiple instead of just putting them all in one, and that's because certain things are going to overlap on top of each other. But you'll see that in just a bit. Now last thing we need to add is the sound effects node, so we can go ahead, right click, add child node, look for sound. If we go ahead, we should be able to find that. Might be called noise instead of sound. Let me double check the name. It's going to be called audio. There we go. Audio stream player 2D. And we can go ahead and simply just drag and drop the sounds we want to use. This first one here though is going to be called the audio stream player 2D, and we'll just do this as the laser. So when we shoot a laser, it'll make this sound. Let's go ahead and locate the one we want to use. There's going to be some in the bonus, a couple different sound effects. I'm going to use the sound effect laser 2, so I'm going to drag and drop that right into there. Let's go ahead and create another one. Right click, add child node. Now this one here, this is going to be when the player is hit by something. So we're going to go ahead, just put the word hit at the end. And this one, let's go ahead and just call this one shield down. Drag and drop into there. Looks good. Then we're going to go ahead, we're going to have the game over sound now. Let's go ahead, right click, add child node. Change the name to game over. And then we're simply going to go ahead and use the lose sound. Take that, drag and drop it. And there we go. Let's see what we got so far. All right, let's create those animations now. So we're going to start off with the boom animation. To visualize this a little better, let's go ahead and make the ship invisible that we have on. Now for the boom animation, we're going to have two. We're going to start off with the idle one, which is of course not doing the boom. And what we're going to do here is of course give it the name idle, and then we just need to save what we want for that. So specifically what we're going to do is select the sprite 2D, and we're going to go ahead and make sure that the visibility is off. So it's currently already off, but we need to save that value just like that. And that's it. Super easy. But now let's go ahead and make the actual boom animation. Let's call this boom. Now for boom, of course, the first thing we want to do is make this active. So turn that on, make a new key for that, and there we go. Now we're going to go ahead and go to the 0.2 second range. And what we're going to do is simply change this to the other boom animation we want to use. So if we go ahead, go to the effects, scroll down to the stars again, we're going to use this one here, the star 2. Simply go ahead, or even before we do that actually, we need to save the texture. So go back to 0 real quick, save the set texture, this key here, hit create, then go ahead to 2. Now we're going to go ahead, simply drag and drop the star 2 right here, save that key, and then we can end this whole animation on 0.4, just like that. Now at the end of this though, what we want to do of course is turn off the visibility. So let's go ahead, select the sprite 2D, turn off the visibility here, and save that key value. So when this plays, all it's going to do is flash just like that. Now if you want to go ahead though, and make it a little faster, we could do that as well. I know we're at 0.2, but we could go ahead and do 1.5 just to make it a little bit faster. Simply just drag that over on there. There we go. And then we'll go ahead, go to the end point that we want, such as 3. Drag the invisibility, and then go ahead, end the whole thing at 3. And there you go, it'll be a little faster now, which is great. So we back up, hit play, it'll go ahead and show that as the little explosion. Perfect. All right, let's do the next one now. So let's turn this one default set to idle. Let's go ahead, select the animation power up. And as mentioned before, all we're gonna do is kind of have the player flashing, and I think it would be nice to make them flash in like a blue way. So let's create an animation. First one's going to be idle. And what we're going to do here, so they all flash, we're going to select the main ship's node. And we're going to go ahead. What we're going to do is we're going to go to, let's do visibility. For the modulate, we're going to go ahead and just simply save it as it is right there. Hit create. Now we're going to go ahead, do new. And we're simply going to go ahead and call this power. For the power up, we're going to make this flash blue and white. So let's go ahead and make it blue. Let's do a pretty light one. We could even go all the way over. We're going to go ahead, save that. To visualize it a little better, we can turn on one of the ships. But we're going to make this kind of flash. So let's go ahead. Let's set this one to, let's do like 0.2. Make this now back to white. Save that value. Then let's go to 0.4. And we're going to go ahead, change this now back to the blue we had it set. Save that value. Then we just need to end it at 0.4, so make sure to go over here, 0.4. And then we're going to make this loop simply by activating the loop on the right. And there we go. So there's our player. That's going to showcase that they have a power up. Let's go ahead, set the default back to idle. Let's do the final one now. This is going to be the animation player hurt. It's going to be very similar. Let's do animation, new. Let's call this idle. For idle, what we're going to do, select ships, same thing. Keep the set one here. Let's go ahead and create hurting now, or just hurt for short. Now for hurt, what we're going to do is kind of the same thing. We're going to change that modulate color to a red. Save that value. then we'll do something like 0.2, change it back to white, save that value. We'll go to 4, change it back to red, save that value, and then go ahead, go to 6, then change that to white. Now this one's going to be a little longer because it's not going to be looping, but we just wanted to make sure that it flashes. So go ahead, set this to 0.6, go ahead, hit play, and that's going to happen when we're hit by something. But it looks good overall. I like it. All right, let's go ahead, set this back to idle. We can close out of the animation, zoom out a bit, close everything up, save what you got. Looking good. In this section, we're going to create the player's script. We're going to start off creating a new script for the main player node. We're then going to ensure the player's sprite is set on the game start and also follows the mouse as expected. We're then going to add all the expected functions needed to make the player animate and attack enemies. Now let's go ahead and jump right in. All right, let's go ahead and get started with this script. So we're going to go ahead, select the main node of the player. We are going to add a new script here. We have to make sure we're saving it in the correct location. Let's go ahead, make sure you're in the scripts folder. Open, hit create. All right, so now we're going to start off with a couple different variables. First variable is going to be an @export. This is going to be a variable for speed. And we're going to set the default value to 800.0. Then we're going to create another @export variable. We're going to call this stopping_distance. Now we need this value because we have to have kind of like a minimum amount of distance in between the player and the mouse, or we're going to get like a glitching motion. All right, we'll set this to 0.0 for now. Then we're going to go ahead, create another @export variable. And this is just simply going to be our health, which I'm going to set the default value to 3. Then we're going to have another variable. This is going to be called destroyed. This is just going to keep track of whether our ship is destroyed or not. On start though, we always want it to equal false. We're also going to have a variable representing each type of laser we can use. So we're going to have a laser_1. And we're going to equal this to something called a preload. Now a preload is kind of like a preloaded scene. And we know, of course, we have laser 1, 2, and 3. So then if you type in the name, you should see the laser_1. Make sure it has that .tsc in there, just like that. So now we just need one for each. So I'm going to copy this whole thing. I'm going to paste it below, just like that, 2 more times. Let's do laser 2. Go ahead, change this to laser 2. Get rid of that extra part it added. Let's do laser 3. Go ahead, change it here. Perfect. Let's get rid of that. All right, a couple more variables. We're going to create another variable. We're going to call this can_shoot. And by start, it's going to equal true. We're also going to have one more variable. We're going to call this power_up_boost. And we're going to set the default of this equaling it to 0. Because once we run into our power up, we can go ahead and change this number. But on default, we don't want to have power up, so we'll leave it at 0. Save what you got so far. All right, let's continue on to our first function. So the first function we're going to create is going to be our ready function, which we know is everything that's going to happen on start of the game. So what we're going to do function_ready. All right, now in here, all we're going to set is 2 different animations. We need to set one for the boom and also for the power, just forcing the idle animation. So let's take those. Animation boom. Do a .play, and go ahead, play the idle. Same thing for the other one. let's go ahead. For the power up, drag and drop, dot play, simply play the idle. And honestly, we can do the same thing for the other one, which is the hurt one. It'll automatically not play, but just to be sure, let's do each one. And there we go. Simple, just like that. All right, that's going to be everything for our ready function. Let's move on to the next one. This is going to be our process function, so everything that we want to happen continuously throughout when the game is played. So go ahead, underscore process. Now the first thing we need to do is make sure the game is on, and we also have some health / we're not destroyed. So let's go ahead, say if global dot game on equals true, and global dot, we'll say game over equals false. If both those are the case, then we can go ahead and run a function we're going to create called turn underscore on underscore ship underscore body. Now we need to have a separate function for this because of course we have 3 different ships we can choose from. So we're going to have a specific function that turns each one on depending on which player we picked. So by default, we should have each one of these turned off. Let's go ahead and continue though on this function. Next thing we're going to do is we're going to make our actual player visible. So we'll do visible and then simply equal that to true. Now by default, we shouldn't have this as visible. So you can either turn it off from here, or if you wanted to, you could set this visible to false in the ready. I'm just going to go ahead and make the player false just like this for now instead. All right, now we of course need the actual ability for the player to move around. So let's do that with a simple if. Say if capital I input dot is action pressed. And then we're going to look for specifically the left click. Now if left click does not exist for you, that means that we never set it in the original settings for inputs. We can simply do that by simply going ahead to project settings. Once project settings opens up, then we can go ahead and go to the input map and create a new input for this. And again, we're going to do left underscore click. Go ahead, hit add. Then you just need to tell it which input initiates that. So we will go ahead, plus, and we will look for the mouse button, left mouse button. Hit OK, and there we are. And again, this is how you could do it for any other key as well. But for this game, all we really need is that left mouse button click. Let's close that there. Let's go ahead, try to find that again. Double quotes, left click, and there we go. All right, so if our left click is hit, that means we want the player to, of course, follow the mouse and start the shooting. So we're going to go ahead and create a new variable in here, call it mouse underscore position, and simply go ahead and just equal that to our get underscore global mouse position. Now that will get the exact X and Y position of the mouse wherever it is on the screen. So once we have that though, then we can go ahead, we'll create another variable and call this distance underscore to underscore mouse. And we're going to go ahead and simply equal that to global position, which is our X and Y position of the player, dot distance to, and then we're going to go ahead and do mouse position. Now why do we need this? Well, this was specifically for, of course, giving us a little buffer range, because like I said, if we have the player move exactly where the mouse is, it's never going to exactly be there, causing it to flicker. This will solve that problem for us. Let's go ahead though, continue on with this function. We're going to say if, and we're going to say if our distance to mouse is greater than, and we'll say stopping distance. Then we'll go ahead, create a new variable in there, call it direction, simply equal it to parentheses set mouse position minus global position And then we'll do a dot normalize. Now dot normalize just helps us kind of like round it up to a number we can actually use. So now that we have our new direction, then we can go ahead and simply set our velocity. Now our velocity will go ahead and equal the direction times delta. Or actually, better yet, we'll just times it by speed. If we wanted to times by delta, that would help it with the frame rate, but for this type of game, we're not really going to need that. So you can keep it just as direction times the speed that we have set. Now let's say though that is not the case. If our distance to mouse is not greater than our stopping distance, then what we want to do is simply set our velocity dot, or not dot, we'll do a velocity equals a vector2 dot 0, meaning if we are too close to the mouse, we don't want the ship to move at all. So we're forcing it to stop with a vector2 of 0. Now beyond this point, we need to initiate the actual movement. Let me add some enters here so we can see it a little better. So right over here on this line, we're going to simply initiate our move and slide, because now that we have our calculated velocity for our character body, we need to initiate that movement onto the game. Now we're also going to add one more thing here. That's going to be the shooting, which we will simply say if can shoot equals true. Then we're going to run a function that we're going to create called shoot underscore laser. All right. Now outside of this is going to be on the same line as our original if statement. We need something for the health, so we're going to say if our health, let's say, is less than or equal to 0, and our destroyed variable equals false, then we're simply going to go ahead. We're going to set our global dot game over, equal that to true. We're also going to go ahead, freeze our position by equaling speed to 0. And then we're also going to go ahead, turn off the ship. So take that ship node, or ships node, do a dot visible, and simply equal that to false. And then we're going to go ahead, play the boom animation. So take the boom, drag and drop it, do a dot play, and simply make boom active. All right. Then we're going to go ahead. We need to make the actual next one active, so we're going to have to go ahead. Let's do a destroyed and equal this to true. Now again, this destroyed variable is just because we don't want this to run over and over again. We only want this to run one time. So by having this here, it means it will only go once and not be able to continue. But that's going to be it. Remember, you can always check the source code. Let's save this function. All right, let's continue on to our next function. So we're going to go ahead. We're going to create our turn on ship body function. That's the one erroring out right here. So we can take that name. Let's go ahead. Let's get out of this one, go all the way from the beginning. Do a function, paste that name. All right. So in this function, what we want to do is, of course, make whichever ship active based on the one we've selected in the choose section page. So let's go ahead and say if global dot chosen ship double equals 1. Then we're simply going to go ahead and we're going to open up ships, drag and drop ship 1, and do a dot visible and equal that to true. Now we need to do the other ones, so let's go ahead, take that whole statement. I'm going to go ahead, paste this in twice below. Now let's do 2 for this one. And then of course we're just going to make the ship 2 true. Make sure it's 2, and then this one below it, do 3. And then of course the path is also going to be 3. And make sure these paths match up exactly with these ones here, or you're going to have an issue. But that's going to be it for that function. You should no longer have the error, and you should be set there. Let's go ahead and move on. Now we're going to have the actual shoot laser function. So let's go ahead, function, shoot underscore laser, parentheses set, colon. All right. Now inside of it, what we have to tell it first is to initiate a new variable called new_laser. We also have to specify which laser based on the selected ship. So we're going to go ahead, do the same thing, if global dot chosen ship equals 1. Then we're going to go ahead, we're going to set our new laser equal to laser1 dot instantiate. That'll bring it into the world. Then we need to go ahead and do an add sibling. So we can do add sibling here. The reason we're doing add sibling is because we don't want this specific laser to be attached to the player. We want it to move kind of in its own world. If we did an add child, it would be inside the player and move with the player. But if we do add sibling, it'll be next to the player, which is great because we don't want to control that location. So let's go ahead, add new laser inside of there. Then we need to specify the position. And you know what? We could do that afterwards because they're all going to start in the same position. But what we could do is, of course, start the timer. So let's take that timer to shoot, drag and drop it into there. We're going to do dot wait time. And that wait time is correlating, if you select it, you'll see it, to this here. And for this ship, it's going to shoot a little faster. So we're going to go ahead, give it a default of 0.5. But because we possibly might have our power up, we're going to reduce that by power up boost. So if we have the power up, it'll of course make the bullet fire even faster. All right, let's do the second ship. Let's go ahead, copy this whole thing. Let's go ahead, paste it right below. This will be for the second one. Now this is going to be pretty similar. We are though going to go ahead, change the type of laser. This is laser type 2. Go ahead, add that in there, but we are going to change the default because this one's going to take a little longer. We're going to go ahead and make this 0.8, but everything else can stay the same. Because again, this is still going to be an add sibling, and of course we'll minus the power up boost. Let's do the final laser. Let's copy that whole thing, paste it in. Let's go ahead, make this equal 3. Then of course spawn in the laser type 3. But if you remember, this one is not going to work exactly the same. We want this one to follow with the player. So instead of add sibling, like I said earlier, we're going to do add child this time because we want it to follow the ship. Now this is going to be the longest laser wait time, so we'll do 1.5 for the default, and then of course minus any power up boost we need. All right, now we can go ahead and specify the starting location. So go back a line. We're going to go ahead, do new laser dot global position equals, and now we just need to grab the point, which is the firing point, dot global position. Then we're going to go ahead, set can shoot, and simply equal that to false. We're also going to go ahead, we're going to play the sound it makes when it shoots a laser. So let's locate the sound. This one right here, drag and drop. And then we're going to do a dot play. We're also going to go ahead. We're going to get our timer to shoot and start that as well, because we want to go ahead and time exactly when we can shoot again. Go ahead, do play. Or not play, start for the timer. Play is only for the animations and of course the sounds. And that reminds me, we forgot to add one more sound in. Back in the process function for the game over, we never added the game over sound. So go ahead, right above the boom, take that game over, drag and drop it in. Simply do the dot play, just like we did with the laser. Perfect. Scroll back down, save what you got, and we're looking good there. Let's wrap this script up with a couple more functions. We're going to go ahead now and we're going to create our area entered function. This is when we actually get hit by something. So let's go ahead and remove these extra spaces here. We can connect that area 2D signal. So go ahead, select area 2D, go to node, go to signals, and then simply select the area entered. Make sure it's connecting to the script. And here we go. So this function specifically is going to be for when another area 2D enters this area 2D. So of course, we need to find out which one it is, which we can simply do with an if. And we're going to say area dot is underscore in underscore group. Now we're looking for a specific group name tag called enemy. This is what we're going to attach to each enemy type ship. Now when this happens though, we're going to go ahead. First thing we're going to do is play the hurt animation. So let's go ahead, drag and drop that in. Do a dot play hurt. We're then going to, of course, minus some health. So take our health, do a minus equals 1. Next thing we're going to do is we're going to say if our health, and we're going to say is greater than or equal to 1. If that's the case, we're going to go ahead, play our specific sound for getting hit. Now the reason we're doing this is so they don't overlap with the game over sound. This is just a nice little safety net. Then, last thing we're going to do in this if statement, we're going to go ahead and start our power up timer, okay? So we're going to go ahead, we're going to find the power up timer, which we don't have yet connected. If you want to connect it, you can, just simply select it, go to timeout, connect it to the script, and then we're simply going to just run this. Reason being is we don't want to have our power up active. If we get hit, it's going to cancel it out. So go ahead, add that there. Perfect. Now we can do the actual power up. So I'm going to take, again, our if statement for is in group. I'm going to go ahead, paste it on the same line as the original one. And we're going to look for specifically lowercase power, capital U up. Now if we run into that power up, then we're going to go ahead. We're going to remove the power up from the world by doing an area dot get underscore parent. And the reason we're doing a get parent is because the area 2D we're hitting is a child of the main node. So sort of like how this is, and there's the main node. If we want to get rid of everything in the main node, we have to get rid of the actual parent node. So we're going to go ahead, do get parent. We're going to do a dot q underscore free parentheses. That will go ahead and remove the power up so we can only collect it one time. We're then going to go ahead and set our power up boost, simply just something small like 0.4. We're also going to go ahead, play our power up animation. So we're going to go ahead, take our power up, drag and drop it, do a dot play, and do the power. We're also going to go ahead, start the power up timer. So take power up timer, drag and drop it, and do a dot start. Now this power up timer, we're going to go ahead and we're going to set it. Let's specifically set it to something like, I think 5 seconds. If we already didn't do it, which we already did, that's fine. If you want to adjust that, you can, but 5 seconds should be good. Make sure it has that one shot on as well. All right, and that's going to be our area 2D. Now, specifically for this timeout, what we're going to do here is just turn off the power up. To do that, we're simply going to go ahead and we're going to do power up. And we'll do power up boost, equaling it to 0, which we'll go ahead and turn it off. We're also going to go ahead though and play the power up idle animation. So take the power up, drag and drop it, do a dot play, and then do the idle. Now we just need our last function, which is our timer shoot. Select it, node, timeout, connect it. And all we're going to do in here is simply set that can shoot, equaling it to true. And there we go. We should be all set. Let's save everything we got here. Remember, you can always check the source code. Let's go back to 2D view. All right, let's go ahead and test some things out. Let's go ahead, select our main scene. Let's drag and drop our new player. So scroll on down to your yellow folder for components, locate the player.tscn, drag and drop it onto main. Go ahead and make it visible for a second. We just want to move this right on over here underneath the play button. I'm going to make it invisible again. Let's save what we got. Let's go ahead, start current scene, let that load. All right, hit play. Select which ship you want to use. I'm going to use the tank. Hit choose. Let's make sure the player can follow the mouse. Perfect. Now if you want to adjust the distance, you can. Let's mute this for a second. But it looks like everything's working pretty well. Let's make sure we can't go across the borders, which we can't. Nice. All right, let's close out of there. Let's adjust that distance so we get less glitchiness. Select the player here. I set my stopping distance to 10. We might need to increase that to something like 15. Let's save what we got again. Let's go back to main. Let's go ahead, start current scene. Let that load, hit play. Go to ace this time. And there we go. Looks like it's not as glitchy, which I like it. Overall, looks really well. Let's close out of there. Close up the output. Close up our folders. Let's save what we got. And we're looking good. In this section, we're going to create the enemy node. We're going to start off and discuss the enemy types. Then, we're going to create a new node for the basic enemy ship. We're then going to ensure the enemy node has a sprite and a collision shape for the hitbox. We're also going to add two animations, one for getting hurt and the other for the boom effect. Now let's go ahead and jump right in. This here is going to represent each enemy node we're going to create. Starting off here on the left, this is going to represent our basic enemy node. Now the basic enemy node is going to be the fastest node. It's going to move at a downward motion towards the player. It's also going to be able to only be hit by one laser before destroying itself. Now the middle one is going to be representing our strong enemy ship. Now this enemy is going to move in the same direction, but slower than the basic type. It's also, though, going to be able to be hit by 3 lasers before destroying itself. The last enemy node we're going to create is going to be the asteroid node. Now this node is going to move slow also, but unlike the other 2 ships, it won't be able to be destroyed by any amount of laser attacks. Alright, let's go ahead and get started with our first enemy. So we're going to go ahead and we're going to make a new scene for this. Let's go to Scene, New Scene, Other Node, and then just like we did with the player, we're going to use a character body 2D. Let's rename this. I'm going to call this enemy underscore 1, which is going to be our basic ship. Let's save that real quick. Let's put this inside our components folder. And there we go. All right, let's give it a sprite. Right click, add child node, sprite 2D. Then we can choose the sprite we want to use. We just got to make sure we match it to the same one as the player, which if you remember the sizing of it, we did change our X and Y to 0.9. Make sure it's set for both. Then we can go ahead in our art, can you space shooter, locate the sprite you want to use. I'm simply going to use the one in PNG. I'm going to use just one of the basic player ships. I'm going to take that, drag and drop the red one in. All right, then I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to rotate this towards down because that's the direction it's going to eventually move. So I'm going to go ahead, take the rotation and do 180. Nice. All right, now we need to go ahead and we need to give it the boom node. Let's right click, add child node. We're going to simply go ahead, add a node 2D for this. Let's go ahead, let's call this boom. Then for boom, we're going to go ahead, same thing, add a sprite 2D in there. We're going to give it the starting sprite 2D. If you remember, we're using the stars, just like we did for the player. Let's go ahead and just use star 3, drag and drop that in. Then we can match that up with the same size and color. So we can go ahead, select the player. Let's locate the boom. The size was 4. And then for the color and modulate, we can select it and just save that hex value. So let's go ahead, copy that, go back to enemy 1, let's go ahead, change the scale to 4 for each, and then go ahead to visibility, change the modulate to match up with the value we just copied. There's that nice orange. Let's for now make this invisible. We don't want to see that. All right, now we just need to add our area 2D. Let's right click, add child node, area 2D. We also have to give this a group tag because this is going to be the thing that goes into the player. And if you remember what we did in the script, we said we're looking for that enemy tag. So we're selecting it, go to node, groups, add a new one, and all lowercase, enemy. Then we're going to go ahead, right click, add child node, collision shape, inspector, and then go ahead, just give it a nice circle, kind of just wrapping around it. Now we're not going to give this one a collision shape. That's why we're getting this little warning here. It's looking for that. And this is because we want this enemy to basically go through those static bodies we have in main. All right. The only thing we really care about is if it runs into the player. Now when we go, of course, we're going to spawn it above here and then, of course, delete it somewhere below if it doesn't get defeated by the player. But we don't need a collision shape to do that. We just need an area 2D. So now that we have that there, we can go ahead and add the two animations. Let's go ahead, right click, add child node, animation player. We're going to call this one just boom, just like we did with the player one. We can add it here. It's real simple. Just use animation, new, and the first one will be called idle. And for idle, all we're going to do is just make our sprite 2D invisible like it is currently. So go ahead, save that as off, just like that. Let's do the hurt now, or hurting. Either one's fine. Let's go ahead now and make this active. So I'm going to go ahead, turn this on, save that value. Let's do like 0.2. And I'm going to go ahead, change the texture. But remember, once we change it though, we have to save that as well. Currently, we only have the visibility saved. So let's save the set texture. Go back to 0.2. Change the texture. Save that as well. And then once we get to 4, we'll go ahead and we're simply going to just make it invisible again, just like that. And then we're going to end the whole thing at 0.4. Now, if you want to make this faster, you totally can, but I'm just going to keep it nice and simple like that for now. Perfect. All right, let's do the next one. Right click, add child node, animation player. This is going to be the hurting one, and we're going to do it just like we did with the player. That's just going to flash the ship red. So what we're going to do, animation, new, we'll do idle. Now for idle, we're not going to change anything. We're simply going to select our sprite 2D, and we're going to go ahead, and we're going to just save the modulate color as is. Then we're going to create the hurting one. So hurting. For hurting, just like we did with the player, we're going to flash it red. So let's go ahead, change the modulate for our sprite 2D. Just move that on over to red. Then go to 0.2. Let's change that back to white. Save that value. Then move it on over to 4. Let's go back to red like we were at. And then let's go ahead to 0.6 and go back to what it was right here. Save that value and then end the whole thing at 0.6. And we should be set. Looks good. All right, last thing we need to add is going to be the sound it makes when it gets destroyed. Now that's up to you which one you want to use. I'm going to add the node for it though first, which is going to be the audio stream player 2D. Now we just need to drag and drop the sound. Let's go ahead, locate one of the sounds. I found the best one that works really well is just the laser 1 sound, because we're currently using the laser 2 for the shooting, but this will be better, I think, just because it has a little spark sound, which I like. And there we go. All right, let's save what we got, close everything out, and we're looking good. In this section, we're going to create the enemy script. We're going to start off and create a new script for the enemy node. We're then going to give the enemy a downward motion towards the player. We're also going to ensure the enemy can be destroyed when hit by a laser. Now let's go ahead and jump right in. Alright, let's get started creating the enemy script. Now this script we're going to reuse for each type of enemy node. So let's go ahead and select our main node for the enemy, add the script. Let's remove that last part, _1, because we're going to reuse this. I'm going to go ahead now, save this in the correct location. We're going to save this in our scripts folder. Open, create. All right, we're going to add some variables here starting off. We're going to do an @export. We're going to call this variable health. And we're going to set the default health to 1. We're also going to create another @export right below it. We're going to call this speed. And we're going to set the default value simply to 100.0. We're then going to go ahead, create another @export variable. This is going to be called type, and this will be used to help determine which enemy this is. And we're just going to simply equal this to double quotes, ship. Now we're also going to create one more variable. We're going to call this destroyed. And we're going to simply always equal this to false starting off. Now one function we can create real quick is going to be our function _ready. And all we're going to have in here is setting the default animations, which we can go ahead, drag and drop each one, and do a .play, and set idle. Let's do it for the other one also. Take it, drag and drop, .play, idle. Go ahead, save what you got. All right, let's continue on. Next function we're going to create, this is going to be our process function, so our function that continuously updates throughout the game running. Let's go ahead, do function _process. And then we're going to go ahead, first thing we're going to do is a simple if global dot game on, and we want to make sure that that is on. And we're going to go ahead, do another global dot, and we'll do game over if that equals false. And inside of there, we're going to go ahead, we're simply going to set our velocity equal to vector2. Within vector2, we're going to pass in the variables such as 0, 1, which is going to give it that motion downward on the screen. Now we also need to times that by our set speed, just like that. Next up, we're going to go ahead and initiate our move and slide to give it the velocity movement. Outside of that if statement, we're going to do another one. This time we're going to say health is less than or equal to 0 and destroyed double equals false. If that's the case, then we're going to go ahead. We're simply going to set destroyed now equal to true, so this only runs one time. We're also going to go ahead, set our global dot score plus equals 1. And then we're going to run a function that we're going to create called destroy. All right, let's go ahead and create that destroy function real quick. I'm going to copy the name, leave the process function, do a function destroy. Now in this function, what we want to do is, of course, freeze the position, so equals speed to 0 now. We're also going to go ahead, say if our type equals ship. Then we're going to go ahead. We're simply going to turn off our main sprite image, do a dot visible, and simply equal that now to false. Next up, we're going to go ahead, play the animation, so drag and drop that boom animation, do a dot play, and set hurting. Then we're going to go ahead, make sure that is correct. I think we might have named it the opposite. Hurting though, yep, that's fine. And that one's hurting also, but no worries, we'll keep it as is. So we have our animation playing. Then we're gonna go ahead. We're simply gonna go ahead and make the sound, so drag and drop the audio player, do a dot play, and then we're gonna go ahead. We're gonna do an await, and we're gonna wait for the animation to finish, which we can do that simply by dragging and dropping that in there. Do a dot finished, animation finished. All right, just like that. Then once the animation's over, we're simply going to go ahead and just cue free the entire node just like that. Looks great. Now we can go ahead and we're going to go ahead and do our area entered now. So select our area 2D, go to the node of that, go to signals and select area entered, connect it to the enemy 1. In here we're going to add a couple things. Let me add some enters to make some space. All right, so first thing we're going to check is see if we are running into the player. So we're going to say if area dot is underscore in underscore group. If that's the case, we're looking for player. Then we're going to go ahead, we're going to minus our health. Or you know what, better yet, if we run into the player, what we want to do is just instantly destroy the ship. So we can do that simply by minusing health. Minus equals 3. And we're doing 3 because the max amount of health a ship has is always going to be 3. And even if we're in the negatives, it's still going to go ahead and destroy the ship. But if you remember, we don't want to destroy anything if it's not the actual one, meaning we don't want to, of course, destroy it if it's a meteor. So what we're going to do instead is we're going to say if type, we're going to say equals, double quotes, meteor. If that's the case, then we're going to go ahead and we're simply going to do our area dot, we're going to do get parent, which is going to be the main node of the player. And then we're going to go ahead and we're simply going to do a dot minus health, and let's just do a huge number because we want to instantly crash the ship. So we'll do like 100. Then we're going to go ahead and we can do the actual laser now. So let's do simply over here, let's go ahead and do an if. We're going to say if, and we'll do area dot is underscore in underscore group. And this time we're looking for that laser. So if the laser hits us, we're simply going to go ahead. Now we can do something like health minus equals 1. We're also going to go ahead. We're going to say if our type equals, and let's just say ship. If that's the case, then we're going to go ahead. Actually, on top of that, we're also going to go ahead and say and our health is greater than equal. We'll say, yeah, greater than, or we'll just say greater than 0. We're going to go ahead and we're going to run our hurt animation. So let's go ahead and let's drag and drop the hurting dot play, set hurting. Then we're going to go ahead, do another if inside of here and say if our area, and we're going to do dot get underscore parent parentheses set dot laser, and we're going to say underscore type. If that does not equal type 3, then we're going to go ahead and we're going to do our area dot get underscore parent, and then we're going to go ahead, simply do again our cue free, and we'll go cue underscore free parentheses set. Awesome. All right, looks good there. Now the reason we're doing this is because of course we want to get rid of those lasers if they hit something, which we need to do for the laser 3 because it's shooting out multiple ones, and even if one of them gets hit, such as the center one, we don't want them both to disappear, so we need to individually do that with this code here. Overall though, that looks good. Let's go ahead and get rid of these spaces. Let's do one more simple function, and we're going to need a new node for this. This is kind of going to be like the timeout for the actual node. So let's go ahead, add child node. Let's do a timer, and this is going to be the life timer. Let's go ahead, select timeout, connect it to the enemy 1. Before we do that, we can go to the inspector. Let's change the wait time to 5 seconds. And I'm going to go ahead, make this one shot, auto start. And all we're going to do here is we're simply going to go ahead and we're just going to queue free the current node. Now this will help overall prevent lagging, because if we have too many ships and asteroids in the game, it might lag the game overall. So it's good to have a little timer to get rid of them so they don't build up. Let's save what we got here. Remember, you can always check the source code. Let's go back to 2D view. Let's go ahead though and set each animation to the beginning one. Let's set the muth to idle. And we're looking good. Let's close everything out, save what we got, and there we go. Alright, in this section, we're going to create all the other enemies. We're going to start off creating a new node for the other ship, the power-up, and the meteor. We're then going to ensure to set each export variable correctly. Then we're going to test each enemy type. Now let's go ahead and jump right in. Alright, let's go ahead and create every other type of enemy. So we currently have the enemy 1 here, which we can leave perfectly fine. Let's go ahead into our components folder, find that enemy1.tscn. Go ahead, right click it, duplicate. Then we can call this enemy 2. This will be for our stronger ship. So let's do enemy 2 right there. Let's open that up. Let's go ahead, change the main node so we can make it look different than the original one. Let's locate another red ship. I'm going to do this one here, player ship 1. Let's drag and drop that onto the sprite 2D. Oops, make sure you're adding on the correct sprite 2D. That's going to be this one here. Drag and drop it. Nice. All right. And you can double check the animations still work by selecting. Make sure we have it set. Should flash it red. Looks good there. Let's test the other one. And looks good there. Nice. Let's set everything back to idle. All right, let's go ahead, select the main node here. Now for this ship, we need to adjust it. This one's going to be a little slower than the other one. So I'm going to go ahead, let's make this one 70. We might adjust this later. And let's make the health for this one set to 3. Now this is also a type ship, so we can leave that the same. Let's go ahead now, save that real quick. Let's scroll back down to our components folder. Go ahead, select the enemy 1 again, right click, duplicate it. Let's go ahead, change the name. I'm going to do meteor. Let's go ahead, open up the meteor. Let's go ahead now and change the main sprite 2D to the meteor sprite. We should have some in here, the meteors. I'm just going to use the first one right here. Drag and drop it on the sprite 2D. All right. I'm also going to go ahead, select the enemy name right here. Change that though. We want to call this meteor. Now for the health for the meteor, we need to put it at something that it won't ever be defeated, like 100. So let's set it to 100 there. And this will also match the speed of enemy 2. So let's change that to 80. Let's go ahead, save those changes. Don't forget, we also need to change the type to meteor as well, because the script is going to prevent the hurting animation if we do this. Make sure it's spelled correctly from the script. Let's save that change. Now, one thing I think we forgot to do is we never changed the main node name for enemy 2. Let's go ahead and do that real quick so we don't forget. Save that. All right, now we just need one more, which is going to be the power up. Now, I know it's necessarily not an enemy, but it's going to have the same functionality and the same script attached. So let's go ahead, locate our enemy 1 again in our components folder. Right click, duplicate it. Just call this power up. Go ahead, open up the power up. Change the main node name to power up. Let's change the sprite 2D. We can locate the power-ups. Might be in, yep, power-ups right here. I'm going to use the yellow lightning bolt, drag and drop it in. I'm also going to rotate this back just because I think it looks a little funny like this. Let's transform, send that to 0. And then we also have to increase the size of this one. Let's go ahead and do that. Let's make this something like 2. That might be a little too big. Let's do 1.5. That looks good to me. If you want to make it a little bit more clear, you can go ahead to texture and set the filter to nearest. Now, for this one, we want this one to be very fast. So let's go ahead and change the speed to 150. Now, because this is necessarily not an enemy, we want to go ahead and we need to change this to match up with what we want. Now, if you remember, if we go back to our player, go into the player's script, go ahead, locate it. This is the actual group for the power-up. So we need to make sure we name it exactly the same as this. So let's copy that name. Let's go back to our power-up. Now on its area 2D, it currently has the enemy set. If you go to groups, we need to change that so we can turn that one off, add a new one, paste in that name we have from our player's script, and hit OK. All right, let's save that real quick. Close this up here. Now we might adjust the speeds for some things, but let's go ahead and set up everything for testing in the main script. All right, let's test them out now. So to test them out, we'll simply just drag and drop each one into here and just have them as a default enemy. Before we do that though, if we don't change one thing, they are going to disappear halfway down the screen. We're going to have to go to the actual script for the enemies, and that simply is going to be our queue-free timer. Now, they're set to timeout after 5 seconds, which is fine when we create the actual game, with of course spawning them, but for testing, that's not going to be enough time. So for now, I'm going to go ahead and just comment out my queue-free here, and then put a pass. We'll make sure to change this back when we're done testing, but this will keep them alive as long as we want. Let's go back to 2D view. Let's go to main. Let's drag and drop each one in here. So scroll on down to your components folder. Let's put each one into our main scene. So I'm going to take enemy 1. I'm going to put it on main, move it over somewhere like right here. Let's do our enemy 2, drag and drop it over here. Again, we'll move it into a position like right here. Let's go ahead, let's do the meteor, drag and drop it. Move it somewhere like right about here. We'll also go ahead and do a power up as well. Drag and drop it onto main. And simply just move it over. Let's save those changes real quick. Start current scene. Go ahead, hit play, choose a character. And they should slowly be coming down. Now I think they're going a little slow. And let's make sure that the power up works. Looks like it does. Can we attack the ships? Yes, we can. And it sets us game over when we hit the asteroid. But like I said, they're moving a little slow. So let's adjust those. Let's go ahead into enemy 1. Go to the main node. Let's simply adjust the speed to something a lot higher, like 300. Save that change. Enemy 2. Let's do something a lot higher, like let's do 240. Save that. Let's make the meteor the same speed as the slower ship, so 240. Save that, and then for power up, select the main node. Let's change this one to something higher. Let's do like 400. And looks like we also never changed the type. Because this is not a ship or a meteor, let's go ahead and just simply change this to an empty value. Let's save these changes. Let's go back to main. Let's go ahead, hit play. Let that load. Hit play here. Choose one of the ships, and there we go. I like the speed a lot better. Again, if you want to customize that to make them go faster, you totally can. That's completely up to you. Let's close out of there. Let's remove what we have in here. Again, we don't need these because we're going to spawn these in with a specific node for that. So let's go ahead, select them all, delete each one, save what you got here. Don't forget though, we need to change back our script, specifically in the enemy down here. We need to uncomment that and then get rid of the pass. Again, save what you got, back to 2D view, and we're looking good. In this section, we're going to create the spawner. We're going to start off and create a new node for the spawner. We're then going to ensure that the spawner can create each type of enemy and the power-up. We're also going to add the ability for the difficulty to increase over time. Now let's go ahead and jump right in. Alright, let's go ahead and get started with the spawner. So what we're going to do here is create a new node for it in our main scene. Let's right click, add child node, select the node 2D, and we're going to go ahead and rename this as spawner. Alright, now before we get to the script of the spawner, we're going to have to give it some positions to where we want it to actually spawn in all the different enemies, meteors, and power-ups. So let's right click on spawner. Let's go ahead, do a node 2D, and we're going to call this L point. This is going to be the left point. So let's go ahead and put that somewhere where we think the left point is good, like right about here. Then let's go ahead and take that, Control D to duplicate it, simply call it R point. Then all we're going to do is simply go ahead and move it towards the right side, somewhere about here. And we might push in this one over here just a little bit because we want everything to fit entirely in the screen. That should be good. So with the script, what we're going to do is be spawning in anything in between these 2 points. Now for the spawner, we're also going to need a timer. Let's right click, add child node, select timer. And this timer, we're going to go ahead, we're going to set it to auto start. And we're going to go ahead and set this at a base level of 0.7. Looks good. Let's save what we got so far. Let's go ahead, select the spawner node, add a script. Make sure we're saving this in the correct location in the scripts folder. Hit open. Go ahead, hit create, and there we go. Let's get started with a couple variables. So we're going to go ahead. Let's create some add-on readies. Now add-on readies are different than the add-on exports. Add-on readies are going to be already loaded in objects. So we're going to go ahead, call this one variable, and it's going to be called the enemy _1. And we're simply going to go ahead and equal this to a preload. And we're going to equal this to our enemy1 preload. Now make sure you go ahead, type in the correct name, and make sure you have that .tscn at the end. So now we just need to do this for each one. I'm going to take that, and I'm going to go ahead, simply paste it below 3 more times. Let's do the enemy2 now. So go ahead, change that to 2, and then simply change the preload to our enemy2. Make sure it has that .tscn and nothing else after the quotes. Let's do the next one. This can be the meteor. So let's go ahead, call this meteor. And we're going to go ahead, locate the meteor one. Go ahead, remove that .tscn over there. Now the last one is the power up. Let's go ahead. Let's do the power up. So power up. And I'm simply going to change the preload to the power up one. Looks good there. All right, next variable. We're going to go ahead, do some more add-on readies. So add-on ready, var. We're going to call this start POS. And we're simply going to equal this to our start point, all right, which can be either one, so we'll do left point there. And then we're going to go ahead, do another add-on ready, variable, endpoint, or end position POS. Simply go ahead, drag and drop the R point right there. All right, now we just need the timer. Let's do an add-on ready, var. We're going to call this spawner underscore timer. And we're simply just going to equal this to our set timer right over here. Now we just need two more variables. Let's go ahead, create a variable here. We're going to call this spawn underscore interval. And we're simply going to go ahead, do an underscore as well, and do let's do rate. And then we're going to equal it to let's simply do 0.01. And this is what's going to decrease over time, making the game harder, spawning everything faster. Next up, we're also going to need a variable to limit it. So we're going to do min underscore spawn underscore time. And we'll simply set that to something like 0.5. Save that real quick. Let's go ahead and start off with our first function. This is going to be our process function. So everything that updates over time. So let's go ahead, do function underscore process. Now inside of it, we're going to do a couple things. First thing though we need to check is our global dot game on. We want to make sure that that goes ahead and equals true. And that our global dot will do game over equals false. And then within there, we're simply going to go ahead, say if our spawner timer dot wait time is greater than our min spawn time. Then we're going to go ahead, right below it inside of the if statement, we're going to do our spawn timer dot, we'll do wait time minus equals spawn interval rate times delta. Now we're timesing it by delta just to help with the frame rate, just so it evens it out throughout all different processing speeds. Now we're going to go ahead and do the next function. This function is going to be the signal from the timer itself to actually spawn one of our things in. So let's select the timer, go to the node, make sure you're selecting it. You might have to select out and in again. Select timeout and connect it simply to that script, the spawner. You're going to see this new function appear. And now this, of course, is going to initiate when the timer goes off. Now one thing to make sure is that in our inspector for the timer, it's not a one shot. It should always be going over and over again by having these settings here. Now let's go ahead and get started in here. First thing we're going to do is say if global dot game on equals true and global dot game over equals false. Then within there we can start the process. We're going to go ahead and create a new variable, call this random underscore node underscore scene. That's going to be one of the things we can spawn. And we're going to create another variable. We're going to call this power underscore up underscore chance. And we're going to set that simply to something like a 0.05, which is a 5% chance. Now the reason we're doing this is because we don't want to spawn the power-ups too many times. We want there to be a very low chance of the power-up spawning. So we're going to create a different calculation for the power-up. Let's continue on. I'm going to make some enters here so we can see it a little better. This is a pretty big function. So next thing we're going to do, we're going to say if. We'll do rand I, which gets a random integer range. Give it a set of parentheses. And what we're going to do is we're going to say if it's less than our power-up chance, then we're going to go ahead and we're going to set random node scene equal to our set power-up. If that is not the case, we'll do an else, and we'll create a new variable, call this node underscore to underscore spawn. and we'll simply equal that to an array, which will be our enemy 1. We're also going to have our enemy 2 in here, and then of course the meteor in here as well. Now this makes things a little simpler if we have it in array, because then we can just choose one of those out of there instead of calculating each one like we did with the power up. Then we're going to go ahead, we're going to do random node scene equals, and we're going to do nodes to spawn, and we're going to get one of them now by doing a random I, so random integer, and then we'll use the percentage symbol, which will help us grab one, such as nodes to spawn dot size. So that simple calculation, like I said, is going to pick a random integer, which is going to be either 0, 1, or 2, and then set it to our set random node scene. Now, since we have both random node scene, either one of these here or the power up, we can go ahead and start the process of creating it into the game, which we're going to do by variable new underscore node equal that to random node scene dot instantiate. Make sure you spell that. It won't auto do it because it doesn't know it is a node. There we go. Then we're going to go ahead underneath there, create another variable. We need to calculate the random position in between the 2 points. So we're going to do random underscore x equals random. We'll do float range. Now this gets a random float, meaning it's going to either be a 1.0 or of course a 1.2 or whatever. We have these set, which you can see here. If we go here into the transform, you're going to see the position is set to x of 69.0 and the other one is going to be 635.0. So we're going to get a random float in between each of these. Let's continue on here. So we're going to go ahead inside of here with the pass where those 2 points are, which we can easily do, which is going to be our start position dot global position for our starting x. And make sure though you go ahead and do dot x to get that, comma, because we only want the x, we don't really care about the y. Then we're going to get the end position dot global position dot x value. So there we go. Now we're going to get that random point in between the two we have here. Now once we have that, we can go ahead. We're going to set our new node dot global position equals a vector 2, because we're going to set the x and y. For the x, we're going to set it to that random x we just calculated. And then the y can simply just be one of the points, so end position. Let's just do dot global position dot x value. And there we go. Or make sure that's y value, because by default, these are both going to be the same y's. But of course, we're having that random x at the beginning there. Then we're going to continue on. We're going to have to add it as a child. So add child, new node. And there we go. We should be set with that. Again, you can always check out the source code. Let's go ahead and remove these extra spaces here. Save what we got. Go back to 2D view. Close some things up. And we're looking good so far. Let's go ahead now and test it out. So let's go ahead. What we're going to do is start current scene. Let that load. Hit play. Play as one of the characters. And we should start to see now the enemies floating in. Looks good there. The points are increasing also. Let's make sure we can game over. Looks good. Can we go back to main menu? There we go. Now one thing I did notice is it looks like when we get to game over, it was deleting the objects in the game. So we can go ahead and change that so it doesn't do that. What we could do is simply go into one of our scripts for the enemies, power-ups or meteor, go all the way down here to that timer out. And all we're going to do is say if global dot game over, let's say equals or let's say, yeah, we'll do if it equals false, then we'll go ahead and we'll do a pass. But if it equals true, which is going to be our else, then we're going to go ahead and queue free. So let's save that change. Let's go back to 2D view in the main, close everything up, start the game again. Go ahead now, play until you get a game over. And now the different enemies, asteroids, and of course the power-ups shouldn't delete. If they are still deleting, we might have reversed it. Let's go back in there. Oops, yep, looks like we did. Let's go ahead, take that, paste it there, and then change that to pass. And now we should be good. Let's save that again. Go back to main, 2D view. Go ahead, hit play. Now everything should freeze and not disappear. The lasers though will, and that's okay. I think that looks better without them. If you wanted to do that with the lasers, you could as well. All you would need to do is add that same if statement for when the lasers time out. Let's go ahead though, close what we got here. We can do that change as well. Let's go ahead back into one of our scripts. Let's just copy that same line there. Go ahead, locate one of the laser scripts. Let's find where it times out right here. And then we're just going to paste that exact piece of code with the if global.gameover equals false, queue free, else do not. Let's go ahead, save that. Back to 2D view in the main, don't worry about this. Go ahead, hit play. 3 times the charm, we should be looking good after this. Let's go ahead. Yep, looks like things aren't disappearing, that's great. Let's go back to main menu, close what we got, close out here, save what you got, and there we go. Alright, in this section, we're going to do some bug fixes. We're going to start off and test the complete game. We're then going to locate any bugs or issues with the game. From there, we're going to make sure to fix all the located bugs. Now let's go ahead and jump right in. Alright, when testing the game, I found 2 bugs. Let's go ahead and locate the first bug by starting the game. Let that load. Hit play. Let's start the game. I'm also going to mute it. So one thing I noticed is that when we're in the game, it's not spawning any of the power-ups. As you can see, we continue to play and no power-ups are spawning. There should at least be a couple by now. Let's close out of this. Now, when there's a spawning issue, there most likely is an issue inside the spawning script. So let's go ahead and jump in the spawning script. And let's scroll on down to where we're dealing with the power-up. That's going to be in the on timer timeout. Now, first thing to note is that we have this power-up chance, and that is set to a 0.05. Now do note that that is a float value. So if we go to line 25 where we have this little if statement, we are looking for whether or not it's an integer with that range I. Now that's not going to work with the float value, so we need to change this to a random f. So it will go ahead and calculate it with a random float value. Let's save that change real quick and see if it solves our problem. Back to 2D view, start current scene. Go ahead, hit play, choose your character. I'm going to mute the game. Now we should see some power-ups spawning into the game. Let's go ahead, keep playing until 1 or 2 spawn in. There is a low chance of them spawning, so they're probably not going to spawn too much. Oh, there's one. And there we go. One issue though, as you can see, didn't know if you caught it there, but it looks like we're able to shoot the power-up and make it disappear. Now we don't want that. We want our lasers to fly through the power-up. So what we want to do is be able to basically shoot at it and make it not disappear so we can get it even if we're in front of it. So let's fix that issue. And we're going to fix that issue in a very easy way, similar to how we deal with the meteors. Now if we go to power-up and go ahead, select its main node, you're going to notice that we set the health to 1. That means if one laser hits it, it's going to disappear. Now a simple fix would simply be just change this to a very high value, such as 100. Now there's no way we're going to get 100 hits in it during the time it's alive, so that works out great. Let's keep that just like that. Back to main menu, start current game. Let's go ahead, hit play, mute the game. Now if we shoot out the power-up, our bullets will just disappear on it. Now if you want the bullets to go through the power-up, we can change that also. That's a pretty easy fix. We just go ahead into the script for the power-up. And what we're going to do here is we're going to go to the laser right here. And what we're going to do, instead of if laser hits it, we remove it right here. What we're going to do is we're simply going to go ahead and we're going to say if, and we're going to say if type does not equal power up, then we can go ahead and remove it. So we're going to go ahead, give that a tab, save that. Then all you got to do is just change the type to power up. Make sure to have that there. Save that. Back to main. Back to 2D view. Start current scene. And now our bullet should pass through the power up. Let's go ahead, mute the game. Let that load until we get a power up. Keep playing until one shows up. Might take a while. Now let's try shooting it. And as you can see, the bullets now go through the power-up, which is great. Looks good. Let's close out of there. Close everything up. Save what you got. And we're looking good. Congratulations on completing the project. Let's review what we learned and made. We learned a lot in this project. We created a fully functional space shooter game with multiple UI pages, character movement, and score tracking after defeating an enemy. Some things you could add to this game are more difficult enemy types and maybe even a secondary attack for each ship. Congrats again, and see you in the next section. Congratulations again on completing the project. Before we continue on to the next section, I'd like to take a minute to go over with you about the next level course. The next level course is the intermediate level. In the intermediate level course, we start building games past the traditional arcade style. We start adding in new things such as saving capabilities, upgrading character stats, and overall creating a more dynamic world for the player to interact with. Now, I highly recommend you take this course. You can locate it at the official website, redfoolstudio.com, or if you're watching this on YouTube, simply select the link in the description below. Again, thank you for being a participant, and I can't wait to see you in the next section.